Yes, the saga continues in another wonderful David Cage game. A brilliant man, a brilliant game.
Oh, really? You're going for it, huh? You really go. You're gonna start it off. You're gonna start it off that way. All right, perfect.
I know, because our guest can't talk yet, so it's just like fuming. Motherfucker!
Welcome back to Who is CraigMakk Gonna Murder Today? Otherwise known as Ready Player 2, Detroit Become Human. We are playing through. I am CraigMakk. You are
Serious Jest.
And he is not smart enough to know to speak when we point to him. Okay, well, we have another guy on mic. We have brought in.
What's up?
There he is. There he goes.
Line.
He's excellent. He is excellent at this game. He is phenomenal at the podcast game. Look at him. We brought him on once for the Game of Thrones. We thought he was a pro, and then we realized, oh shit, no, he just was drunk that day, and we lucked out.
Well, Wacker's been down with the show from the very beginning. Was our first intern.
Wacker. Welcome back,
yes,
Wacker. Thank you very much for showing up, dude.
What's up?
Huge. He's full of excitement. We can't wait to bring him on. Can't wait to hear what he has to say today. Holy shit. So anyway, just for anyone who cares,
he's
smoothing his way in. He's coming in on the DL. I like that. That's okay. We'll see what happens.
Guys, how's it going? I'm really excited to be here.
All right,
hey, bells and whistles.
Hey, maybe rein it in. Your excited character is a little weird and creepy sounding.
You want. You guys need to be more
somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. You've seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall. You got to pop up, but not pop up that much. But now you're just laying on the ground. You got to do somewhere in the middle. That's what I need.
You can't do nothing.
Now you're just laying there. Get up. All right. So basically, what we're doing here is, holy shit, the wheels have come off already, and we are 2 minutes in on the dot.
Yes.
So this is Ready Player 2.
That's what she said.
we are playing Detroit Become Human very drunkenly. I am a couple beers in at this point, so the shit's gonna get hopefully not too crazy. Hopefully I'm not going to murder Connor for the fucking 48th time. Like, Connor's going to come in all fucking limping with one leg's hanging off with a fucking Terminator, half of his face off. Why, CraigMakk? Why do you hate me so much? I'm sorry, Connor. I love you. Fuck.
Stop and look directly back at the TV too. Like, why?
Yeah, so that's basically what we're doing is we're playing Detroit Become Human. This is my first time through, but Jess has played this before, so he gets to drunkenly mock me from the back seat. While now apparently he has a co-host in the back seat who can also fucking reach around and try to grab the wheel while I'm trying to drive, which is just going to be a shit show tonight. So everyone strap in. It's going to be a fucking mess. I don't really know if there's any more backstory we should give other than really the fuel that brings us to Ready Player 2, Jess. Is there something I'm missing?
No, yeah, let's this might be a good time to cover it real fast, but we have a regular podcast that we do. It's called Live from the Man Cave. So if you like the conversation that you're hearing today, what the hell just happened? Oh, sorry. All right, technical difficulties. If you like the conversation that you're having today, that's gone now. If you like the conversation you're having today, you can find our regular.
You okay, buddy?
Come on, man, just let me do it. I'm almost out. If you like the conversation you're hearing today from us, we have a regular podcast called Live from the Man Cave, and I just posted technical difficulties. Just posted the title in the room. There is also a website. It's called livemancave.com. I'm posting that in the room as well. You can find the episodes directly there. We're also on iTunes, on any podcast app pretty much that you can think of. Yes. Except Spotify. We're not yet on Spotify.
Why are you going to bring that up? Why do you have to bring up the one place we're not? You're like, we're everywhere. Except let me just point out the one place we're not in case you're a Spotify fan.
I don't want somebody to go on Spotify and you're not on Spotify. Like, all right, well, we're not on Spotify yet, but it's coming. So in the meantime, find us
on Spotify. So I'm going to unplug.
Exactly.
That's when Wacker's like, fuck this, disconnects his fucking PS4.
So
CraigMakk, just as a little bit of just some advice, make the opposite decisions that you think a racist white person would make.
Oh,
because that's basically the whole point of this game.
He's already shitting on the game. He's already doing that. All right, so
Here we go.
let's get to the beer first before we have any kind of conversation at this point. I want to drink.
Well,
so
the only other thing I figure is most important to bring up, considering the entire idea of if people are trying to engage with all of this incredibly insightful, just genius conversation that you've heard so far, you can catch us on Discord, which is another place where we're on there all the time. We actually have an entire channel specifically to the playthroughs. It's Barcode Gaming, where you can come check us out within our Live from the Man Cave Discord channel. Jess is going to post that up right now as well, so you can come check us out there, and that's kind of an ongoing discussion. So if you want to come in and tell us that you think that David Cage is amazing, or you want to agree with Wacker, you can.
Don't come in to say that. Get the fuck
out. Or you can listen to Wacker, whatever you want to listen to, whatever you want to say. Join us on Discord. That's a perfect place to check us out, and we will talk more about that later on. But the most important thing we can convey to you, if you learn anything from us, is that we are wildly raging alcoholics. And that is the main reason why we get together. I mean, it literally says it at the bottom of the screen. We're drunkenly playing these video games. I've been drinking for the last couple hours because I was watching Deadpool 2. So I am ready to drink my beer of the show. But Jess, I'm going to kick it to you first. What are you drinking?
Real quick, I just want to correct something real fast. I'm having some issues with Discord. It's not letting me set a permanent link to Discord.
Okay.
So I would say catch us on Discord through the site. Just go to livemancave.com on the site.
Look at us. That's because we're drunk right now. It's totally fine.
No, it's Discord. It's Discord.
Oh,
it's not offering me the options.
Totally fine.
So
probably Discord,
anyway.
not us. It's probably Discord and not us, even though Discord's been around for a while and we're just a bunch of drunken assholes, but it's probably Discord's fault.
I've been drinking tea so far. I haven't started
well,
yet.
Don't say that. You're ruining our entire thing. It's the whole hook we're going for.
No, I've been holding off on drinking until we actually announce what I'm drinking. So there you go.
Tell us what you're drinking.
Everyone thinks we're alcoholics. You're ruining
you're right.
image.
You're right. No, I was drinking liquor earlier, though. I mean, in my defense.
You're embarrassing them and you're insulting
Very good callback. Good callback. It's the reverse, though. You're insulting them and you're embarrassing me, but that's okay.
All right, so I got my beer. For those of you to listen to the last episode of these, I got my first crate from Tavor.
Yes, sir.
And I'll post the name of the app in here in a little bit. Tavor is a company basically that you put in your zip code into the app, and then they find all of the beers that you can't get in your area, and they make them available to you online. And you could get some really cool shit on there. Like there's shit where like there's only 300 crates of this in existence somewhere, and and you could order it through them, shit like that. So this is another beer from Tabor I'm about to try out. I'll read the description because the description is pretty fucking badass, and we'll see what I think of it once I drink it. But it's called, this beer is called Gyroscope. It's by the brewer Urban Artifact out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's got a 7.5% ABV. It came in a can. I've got 2 of these cans. And the description on Tavor is, today's Gyroscope fruit beer from Urban Artifact is a legit berry-packed milkshake. It's made with 2,600 pounds of raspberries and splashes of real vanilla. Most jams aren't even this loaded. So pour today's 4.25 UT rated sipper in a glass and see for yourself. Watch as your buddy's eyes light up brighter than the beaming ruby red beer. Is that straight up fresh squeezed fruit? So there's a bunch of, that's basically the gist of it. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It'll take forever. But so Urban Artifact, Gyroscope. What I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do this one like I did the last time on the show. I'm going to drink one of the cans straight out of the can, and then I'm going to see if the flavor opens up when I pour it into a Game of Thrones glass that I have here waiting. All right, the can itself, though, does... Let's see. Can's got some cool shit on it. It says, this Midwest fruit tart. Yeah, and then it just says it's 2,600 pounds of raspberries and 30 grams of vanilla beans per 30 BBL batch. Real fruit is heavy. Gently turn end over end before opening and serving. Wow. So I guess that's to mix it up. The real fruit used in all Urban Artifact beer has been fermented out, creating a safe, stable, and delicious beer that will not re-ferment or explode under normal storage conditions. Well, that's good to know that it's not going to explode. So I've turned it over from end to end a few times now, and I'm ready to crack this jammy open. Ooh, that's a nice crack.
Nice.
Oh wow! Right away, the smell of the raspberries just really just flooded like the immediate area around the can. I'm almost worried that this is going to be too fruity now from the smell, because like the description says, it smells like doesn't even smell like beer. It smells like over the top, like raspberry drink. All right, let me try it. Ooh, this is very tart and very raspberry, and like I said, it almost doesn't taste like beer, and I don't know how many of these I'm going to want to be able to drink. My initial reaction is this is not my thing.
Okay.
However, it does, like the quality seems like it's got a good consistency to it. It's got it's like smooth, I guess. So and creamy, but this just kind of isn't my thing. But if you're into this, if you're into like an alcoholic drink that really just it's like almost completely a taste of a not even a milkshake, like it's raspberries with maybe some lactose in it or milk in it, possibly like to make it creamy.
Right.
Then you'll like this. But yeah, I'll drink these 2 cans and then I'll probably never order this again. It's my initial impression. What about you guys?
All right, Wacker, how about you? What are you drinking?
I am drinking Bullet Rye Whiskey.
Nice.
It's a whiskey. It's made of at least 51% rye, because that's what rye is, and I assume it's somewhere between 40 to 50% alcohol by volume, and that's it.
Nice.
Bullet is one of my favorite whiskeys for its price point.
Yep. Also an excellent looking bottle. Tremendous looking presentation to their bottle. I really enjoy it. It's cool to just have on your shelf, like, you know, if you have your little alcohol corner, you know, your little bar or whatever, like in the man cave, you put up a nice little bottle that looks cool. There is value to the presentation.
You call it an alcohol corner?
I call it a bar. I'm saying most people that don't have a bar in their house maybe just have an alcohol corner where they keep their alcohol. Like it's your fucking, that's your fucking corner, man. Everyone has.
Hey,
it's your TV corner. You got your alcohol corner.
If you were gonna like compare Bullet to like a beer, right? I would say Bullet is like the Sam Adams of whiskey, in that it's very mainstream. It's not like something that you pull out and you're like, ooh, try out this dope, whiskey I got that you never heard. Yeah, right. But it's solid as fuck. So yeah.
No one's ever complained about Bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably like a non-Boston Lager Sam Adams, because like Boston Lager is probably your like one that people might actually complain about and be like, all right, I've had this and it's okay at best, but it's like all their other shit.
Yeah, like cherry wheat or some shit.
Right, it's all their other shit that makes people like Sam Adams, and that's where Bullet kind of lives in that range, where you're like, oh yeah, it's super, like, I know what they're about, I know they're going to be good, and it's like a step above your more mainstream bullshit, but it's not like in your upper echelon, like crazy craft, like stuff where you're like, I've never even heard of this, or this is like, one of the top 5 in the, in the country type shit. But yeah, it's awesome. That's pretty cool. Nice, man. All right. Well, one quick thing, Jess, I do want to bring up, because my beer is also a Tavour beer that I got, and I do want to throw out.
Nice.
We have said this before. We obviously don't get paid by them. It's just we're like super excited about the idea of Tavour.
Nobody sponsors this.
We are not a they are not a sponsor. But we do want to
reiterate that.
No. It's important, because we have a referral code that we throw out. Is if you put in the code 448136. You can actually get $10 off if you have not yet joined Tavour. Before your first order, you'll get $10 off your first crate, which is worthwhile. So we just throw it out there again. It's not like it's any special, hookup for us with them, but it's just a thing, that we want to give.
Well, we get $10 and you get $10.
Right.
We get $10 added to our beer.
And that's, if you get $10 off and we get $10 off, that works out for both of us. That seems like a big win for everybody. So I'm okay with that. You don't get shit because you talk too much shit about David Cage. So sorry about that. But anyway, so my beer is from Fort George Brewery in Astoria, Oregon, and this is Waves of Silence Capsize. That's the name of the beer. It is an Imperial Stout. And so this one is basically, it says capsize tastes like a chocolate maple bar dunked in a roasty, chocolatey mocha. Waves of dark chocolate carry a flood of syrup across the taste buds. Then look for a toasty coconut and coffee with a hint of char. The big ABV is totally hidden behind a wall of flavor. If you're looking to get desserty, you don't have to go all Danny Ocean on a maple shipment. Just pick up a few bottles of capsize, invite over a few of your closest drinking buds, and prepare to enjoy life's sweeter side. And this one is 9%. And actually, one of the cool things, Jess, when you had mentioned one of the big benefits of Tavour is like beers that you can't get in your area or whatever, this one specifically says right on the can, it has stamped right on the side, it's distributed only in the Pacific Northwest. And so the fact that clearly we are not in the Pacific Northwest means that Tavour is already paying off for us. So it's pretty awesome. I'm excited to check this bad boy out. So let's see how this one tastes. I'm going to pour this one directly into a glass because I just want to see what it looks like, and see if there's any, what it tastes and smells like and all that you don't necessarily get out of the can. Oh wow. Oh man. Right out of the gate, you can definitely smell the kind of chocolatey, the chocolatey aroma to it is definitely apparent right away. This one has a pretty thick head to it. A bit of a, that kind of, we've talked about like the milkshake head to it, which is pretty great. You also can pick up a little bit of a maple to it also.
Said you.
Yeah.
Until you said milkshake head. Yeah, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to pull back.
And then I saved myself from your childishness. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. I love it. All right.
You kept the show adult for 1 minute longer.
She's never said that to you.
A thick head? I get it all the time, buddy.
Wow. All right, so that one actually surprisingly tastes more like, I definitely taste more of the maple and a little bit of the coconut before you get any of the chocolate part of it, which is actually pretty cool. Like it's a lot of these we've always kind of led with like, oh, you get the chocolatey kind of flavor up front and then you get a little bit of the roasted like coffee in the back end or whatever. Like this one is way more maple and a little bit of coconut, and then there's like that more, it's the aroma of chocolate than the flavor of it, which is pretty great. This one is, I'm going to enjoy drinking this throughout while I murder Connor again. So this is going to be a good one. I'm going to check it out. Yum. All right, man. Waves of Silence, Capsize, 9% Imperial Stout. Enjoy this bad boy.
I'm going to have to ask you for that again. I'm still trying to get caught up on getting all this onto our room.
No problem. No problem.
So, Bullet Rye whiskey. Is it Bullet Rye mash whiskey or is it Bullet Rye whiskey you're drinking?
My bad.
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't see the bottle?
I assume they're the same.
Right. Maybe. Okay. Well, I'm just putting it. There you go.
We're all
Bullet
good.
Rye whiskey. And then I'm gonna get CraigMakk on here. Hey, real quick, what's the reference code again for Tavour?
448 136.
136. All right.
Before we start, I just really want to commend you guys on like this amazingly topical content for this game that came out a year ago.
I don't get it. He's just straight coming in here trying to.
You're just trying to roast us.
You're just
trying to sabotage already.
He's trying to roast us.
You're saying because we're not playing. You're saying because we're not playing a game that just came out.
That we have this. I just love that we have this breakdown for a game that's like, so relevant. Like, because
we're having fun. Just drink your whiskey and put it in a baby bottle if you need to, and just chill out. And then it'll be time for you to talk soon.
Yeah.
Am I coming in too hot?
Yeah, you are definitely a little bit, but that's all right. Also, sidebar, I just want to point out for anyone who's listening, this is also like the 32nd, right? 32nd chapter.
Yeah, 32nd episode.
We've been playing this game for a long time. We've been doing this, like, when we started this game was probably fucking 4 months old. It's just taken us a long time to dig through it.
That's true.
So there was a time where this shit was topical, and now it's a little bit old. Go fuck yourself, Wacker. That's what I have to say. That's just my. That's
also,
my
stop holding it up. This is why the show. This is why it takes so long.
Right.
Well, then
if you shut up, we can maybe get through 3 chapters tonight. But we want.
Respect your completionist nature.
Perfect. All right.
You gotta finish it.
This is a good point though to bring up. Kind of like the format. If you haven't noticed, like the gameplay, each chapter is maybe 5 minutes to the last one had to be like 20 minutes, right?
Right.
Of like action. And then after Mac plays through it, there may be some talking during the gameplay, but not much. But it's afterwards where we discuss pretty much any rabbit hole that anything that we've seen in here takes us down through, and
whether
it basically becomes it
Right.
becomes an extension of our podcast, basically.
Right.
Is what it is. So
yeah.
So if you want to just watch the gameplay, go for it. But we invite you to stay and converse with us about all these different topics that we're gonna address.
As you've noticed by now,
like
if you're joining right now, we're 20 minutes in and we still haven't even gotten to the gameplay yet. So just imagine after the gameplay how long we go. So that's why it takes us. That's why it takes us. That's why the last one was a 20-minute gameplay piece, and we talked for 4 fucking hours. So shit goes sideways sometimes on these shows. So hey, man, we've gone down some rabbit holes we've talked about, hey, what did you think about the gameplay of that fucking shootout moment of the game, all the way out to, so what do you think about androids fucking? Like, we've talked about some crazy stuff. Like, so things will happen. We'll go down. We will talk about, fucking heavy metals and shit like that, and all kinds of weird rabbit holes on the war that is happening in this game between Russia and the United States, and how that relates to the Cold War bullshit that's happening right now. Like, so we'll go down all kinds of fucking crazy rabbit holes. And so, Wacker, feel free to, whatever pops up as you see the gameplay, whatever, whether it's about like the actual specifics of the gameplay, to the story, or to the kind of cascading thoughts that come, from the storyline, that's fine as well.
No, I mean, I won't have any opinions about this at all.
Perfect. Get right to it then. Glad to have you on, Wacker. Thank you very much. Already adding tons to the show.
So for those of you just joining in, again, if you're watching this on video, it means you're not watching it live. Don't start with mission 31 we're on right now. Don't be a psychopath. Go back to mission 1 and at least check out the gameplay. Just like kind of fast forward through it until you see the gameplay and get caught up, because it's a pretty good story up until now. We've seen 3 main androids as the main characters, so they're worth mentioning at this point. That we've seen one, which is Marcus, who is this android that has been kind of cultivated to try to think on his own by his previous owner. And after some shenanigans happen and he's blamed for the murder of his owner, which he didn't do, he makes his way and finds these androids holed up in a place called Jericho on an abandoned ship. He kind of becomes their leader and leads them and tries to let the world know we're alive, we're not just robots, and we want our rights as well. Simultaneously, Kara is an android, like a housekeeper android, who's been taking care of this little girl. And the owner was abusive of them both, and she stole a little girl away, or helped the little girl escape. They found Jericho, and then that's when she learns the little girl was an android the whole time along. And then finally we have Connor, who is a law enforcement android who has basically been this whole time questioning, little by little, breaking his programming as to, they have him trying to track down deviants, and he becomes a deviant himself right before this episode kicks off. So the feds have raided Jericho at this point. Everybody escapes because CraigMakk got them all out. In my version, I lost Kara. She died, but CraigMakk got everybody out, and we're about to proceed to Night of the Soul, to the aftermath of the Jericho invasion by the FBI.
Yes,
anything I'm missing?
No, I think other than the fact that I was super excited about this. Was like last mission was basically my version. We talked about last time was like the version of the first time like Tyrion makes it to Marine, where you're like, oh shit, characters like meeting each other that I've cared about for fucking 8 years. Like now I'm finally seeing them come together, and so like that last mission was that first time you're seeing these characters kind of all meet each other and come together. And it paid off in ways that were, go back and listen to that episode. We talk about it, but it definitely paid off. So I'm excited to see, do they live up to the hype from that, or does it, did a lot of that, was it just off the hype, right? The excitement that you were excited to finally see them together. Can they not live up to that now that it's like, hey, it's already been done? Is it not going to be as cool? Kind of like some of the shit that happened in Game of Thrones, right? Where you're like, some of that was actually just cool because I was excited to see them together for the first time, and now that you actually have to tell a story, maybe it's not as cool. We'll see if these guys can pull it off.
I feel like you're already gearing up to be critical.
No, I'm saying it could go either way. Like I'm saying, I'm
Okay.
saying I loved that last episode. So I'm saying, will it live up to it, or could it also just as easily go the other route? Right where you're like, was it only exciting because it was the first time?
It's definitely gonna go the other right.
All right, fuck off.
He thinks.
On that note,
Hey,
here we go.
real quick,
Yes.
Craig, give me the beer
Yes.
one more time. Give me the name of your beer one more
The name
time.
of the beer is Waves of Silence Capsize by Fort George Brewery.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
Yep. It's an Imperial Stout, 9%. All right. On that note, we are ready to dive right back into this. I'm going to take another sip of this fucking beer. By the way, I gave this 3 as of right now. It may grow on me over time. This is good. It's not amazing yet, but I'm enjoying it. But I gave it 3 stars in the Tavor app right now. We'll see what happens.
I think I'm gonna give this one 2. The more like I'm getting, and I'm disliking it the more I'm drinking it because I'm getting sick of like the overwhelming tart raspberry taste.
Oh, Marcus. Here he is walking through it. Oh man. Oh, he's seeing his dad's tombstone.
You said I should never let anyone tell me.
I didn't see this because he didn't die in mine.
Right.
But you didn't say
that's pretty
there
cool.
was such a high price to pay for it. That freedom wasn't a gift, that it was a fight, but...
Press X to pay respect.
Maybe
Just
that's what
did,
you
by
were
the way.
trying to tell me. I don't know what to do anymore. All of my options are bad ones. No matter what I decide, I know there will be blood.
There will be blood. Wow.
What should I do, Carl?
He's dead. You
They're
can't ask.
killing us. I don't want to answer violence with violence, but what choice do I have? I miss you, Carl. I miss you so much.
Who the fuck is that guy? Oh, just another person in the... Okay. I thought that was like supposed to be a meaningful thing, but he's
Isn't that his
just
son?
another human.
That's his son.
Oh, was that Leo? Leo?
Yeah, it's Leo.
And that's the end of the game.
You just lets him go? You just lets him go like that?
Yeah, too many people have
like,
died.
you're a murderer.
Leo! And you got me killed almost. Like,
yeah.
Because he fucking the cops shot me because he was like, he killed him even though fucking stupid Leo did it.
Should have been like, you lied on me.
Alright. What came first? This or this came after Until Dawn, right?
Yes.
So you think he just had such a good time in Until Dawn that he was like, man, I'll do another fucking video game because it's like,
Who?
it is interesting. This dude, Marcus,
Who?
like the guy who plays Marcus is in Until Dawn.
Jesse Williams wasn't in Until Dawn, was he? I don't remember him being in it.
Isn't he? Or did we talk about, was it the other dude?
What other dude? The only person
hold
I
on.
recognize from...
Wait, hold up. I want to see this.
Oh, you're thinking of Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah, you're right. I got him confused.
Are people accounting when they move?
Exactly. Her and Remy Malik.
One who can lead us.
Well,
Yes.
Remy Malek's definitely in it, yeah.
Yes, that I know. Hold on.
Wherever you need to go, we'll follow you.
Hey, there you go. Simon's my companion now. Thanks, Simon. Let's see what North says. North's gonna be like, I like you, but hand sex is all I like about you.
Sex.
Hand sex. Alright, who else? Let's see. Gotta talk to all my peoples. Who's that over there? Who the fuck? Oh, yeah, Connor. How you doing, bitch?
It's my
I
fault.
love
The
Connor.
humans managed to locate Jericho.
You're right. It is your fault.
I was stupid. I should have guessed they were using me.
Fucking love Connor. He's the best.
I'm I'm sorry, Marcus. I can understand if you decide not to trust me.
I'll always
You're
trust
one of
you.
us now. Your place is with your people.
There are thousands of androids at the CyberLife assembly plant. If we could wake them up, they might join us and shift the balance of power.
You want to infiltrate the CyberLife tower? Connor, that's suicide.
They trust me. They'll let me in.
Whoa.
If anyone has a chance of infiltrating CyberLife, it's me.
If you go there, they will kill you.
There's a high probability. But statistically speaking, there's always a chance
I love the way he
for
talks.
unlikely events to take place.
Statistically speaking.
Be careful.
Fuck. Vic. Are we sending Connor to die? Shit. Let's see. Okay. Just checking all the boxes, talking to everybody.
If it weren't for you, I'd be dead.
That is true. You would be
Thanks
dead.
to you, I might see our people free one day. You and I haven't always agreed, but I know
I feel like we've almost always
we're
agreed.
fighting for the same thing. Whatever you decide, I'm with you, Marcus.
Of course you're with me. Josh. Josh is a companion too. Not yet quite a lover, but I'm going to get him there. It's got to work a little harder, apparently. Northwood fell in line too easily, is what I'm learning. North's not here. What the fuck? Oh no. No! Okay, good. Thank God. There's North.
They say they don't want to take any risks with deviants. So they're rounding our people up and taking them to the camps for extermination.
Alright,
In a
Minka.
few hours, we're gonna be the only ones left. How many of us survived the attack?
A few hundred? Maybe more if you count those hiding all over the city. If you hadn't triggered the bomb, we'd all be dead.
What's your system status?
Wait,
I'm
trigger
okay.
the bomb. What bomb did I trigger?
Bullet didn't hit any bi-components. You could have been killed trying to save me, Marcus. You have to think of our people first.
I'm
Nothing
confused.
else.
You blew the ship, remember?
Oh, yes, the ship. Okay, yes. I thought she was talking about the dirty bomb one that she had in the middle of the city. I forgot about the blowing up the ship.
You have to make a choice, Marcus. But whatever you choose,
I'm with you.
we will follow you.
Of course you will.
I love you, Marcus.
Wow. Oh, shit, she went for it. Hand sex? Hand sex? Hand sex? Yeah, hand sex. That's what I'm talking about. Seems so much easier as an android. Just do that shit in public in front of anybody. No one needs to know.
You just jizzed in her hand.
Jizz in her hand. Alright, I'm down with this. North is the lover. Alright, now I just need to apologize to Kara.
I thought you'd be safe staying with us.
Well, I fucked that up.
I was wrong.
Kara.
You need to leave the city while you still can.
Getting Alice away from here is all that matters now. We have to catch the last bus. We might still have a chance to cross the border.
Okay. I feel like it was just like, alright, good point.
Marcus,
I'll see you later.
save our people.
Interesting. Alright. So everyone has is my back. Now I have to inform my people of my choice. Let's do a quick scan.
Speech.
Yeah. Oh no, speak is the button prompt, not speak.
Humans have decided to exterminate us.
You gotta make a choice here, CraigMakk, and you gotta
Our
inform
people
them
are
of it.
packed in camps right now, being destroyed.
Oh, this is...
Time has come to make a choice. One that very well may determine the future of our people.
Exterminated?
Oh wow, that's some solid David Cage writing.
Yeah. Fuck, alright.
I know.
Still
I know you're all angry.
Non-violent.
And I know you want to fight back. But I assure you violence is not the answer here. We are going to tell them peacefully that we want justice.
North, fuck you. You said you're down with whatever I say. You fucking down-arrowed me for that shit?
Others will take our place and continue this fight.
Well, she'll follow you. She doesn't have to like it, though.
Well, then don't do that bullshit. Then be like, yo, I'm going to follow you, but I'm going to hate what you fucking say. Like, fucking voice your opinion then. Say your shit. Give me your feedback instead of this, like, this false shit where she's like, whatever you say, I'm with you, and then be like, but I'm judging the fuck out of you.
Well, you know where she stands, though.
I know.
So
oh, wow, that was super fast. Wow, that was a quick one.
It's so like a woman, too. Like, do what you want.
That was a quick one.
Oh, you made that choice?
All right, so we wrapped that one up pretty quickly. Wrap
it up, B.
So
that was like a transition.
You better wrap that gavel up, B. All right. So, Night of the Soul, I got 31% on that one. Public opinion is supportive. Jericho, I am their leader. North, I am still her lover, which is sweet for me. Josh, companion. Simon, companion. North got hand sex. So, big win for me across the board, it seems like. That's on the Marcus timeline. I get to choose between the multiple characters. So, at least to see what Connor does, although I didn't feel like he got a whole lot to do other than get talked to for a minute, unless I missed a lot of shit. So I guess we'll see in a minute. But so I guess we'll switch over to the world stats real quick, see what the world says while we break this down. So
by the way, mine was Marcus was 46% completed.
Wow,
for Marcus.
What
yeah, and fuck? I know why already.
Okay, that's amazing.
It'll be apparent right away.
Okay. Because I'm like, I didn't fucking see things that I could do. Like, there was nothing else that it showed I could even do other than things I did.
It wasn't that.
It was other stuff. It was things that you had available to you that I just didn't have available. Okay, that's cool. All right, so you want to just dive right into the fucking flowchart, and then we'll start breaking down this episode? All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, Carl died and broken, so that's the very first beginning. Different for me, so I got to pay my respects with you. You didn't even get to see it all. That 47% was not for you. And I confided in Carl. I gave him my my innermost thoughts. So I guess yours was probably something down here.
Yep. So mine was under that. Mine starts with Carl deteriorated after Leo was hurt and broken. So I actually returned to the home in my story. That was cool. 43%.
Right.
And I entered the house. Which is right next to that other big unlock. Is the little unlock is enter the house, and then it goes to explore the house, which is that that big unlock right there with all the options around it.
Right.
I listened to Leo's message. There's some voicemail from Leo for Carl on there apologizing about all that shit, and I think he said he went to rehab or some shit like that. And then I went upstairs. He has a new android looking after him. Carl did, and the nurse intervened. And then I converted his nurse.
Oh,
and
wow.
then I entered Carl's bedroom, and then I reconciled with him. I confided in him. I don't know. There was an unlock under confide in him, and then I ended up leaving. And then the next unlock in my case was that Jericho was attacked in Crossroads like yours. So I think we could pick back up there because I think you probably have that as well, right? You scroll right on your flowchart somewhere. It should say Jericho was attacked in Crossroads.
So all this shit was like stuff that I didn't even have access to. So letting Carl die really fucked my game over in this one because it really fucked my percentage over pretty hard.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carl.
But you get,
Yeah. All right. So Jericho attacked in Crossroads. Marcus on Sacred Ground. 87% is where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes, that's the same for me.
all right. So
87%.
Deviants regroup, and so now we're in the Deviants regroup section, which is talk to North. 78% of people did that. And from there, I shared a moment with North. 68% of people did that.
Yeah, same for me.
Yep, I had talked to Kara. 71% of people, which obviously I assumed
That
you
I didn't do.
because
Yeah, she was dead.
Talked to Josh. 83% of people did that.
Yep.
Talked to
Same here.
Connor. 72% of people did that.
Same here.
And I spared Connor. 71% of people did that.
I did, and obviously I didn't talk to Simon like you
And
did
then talked to
because he
Simon.
was dead in mine.
52%. Right. Yep. And then I had a peaceful protest. 49% of people did that. What did you choose?
That's what I chose as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And then that leads to Marcus chose to protest for his people. 51%.
I mean, we might as well, if you want to take a moment real quick. I mean, we've talked about this also in prior episodes, but the choice at this point, your people are getting killed, left and right, and now you've got you've got people held captive still, and they're being held in a camp. So you got to go get them. There's two ways to do it. One, to approach in a peaceful manner and risk getting shot at again, like you keep getting shot at every time you try some shit peacefully.
Right.
Or you could go in like a fucking, liberator and just fucking like, nah, you know what? We tried it the peaceful way, and we're not down with getting shot and fucking abused anymore in front of everybody. So we're gonna do it the hard way.
Right.
You chose the peaceful protest. Anything about that decision that you want to, talk about here?
Well, so part of that is, again, I've kind of stuck pretty hard to my Marcus character from the very beginning after I murdered that one guard in horrendously cold blood, and I feel really bad about that. I have stuck pretty faithful to the idea that my Marcus is like, no one who doesn't overtly deserve it needs to die, right? Like, I remember if there's somebody who straight up pulls a gun on Marcus will fight back and kill somebody to protect himself, but he won't proactively start the battle. And so this kind of reinforces that, where there's a moment of his whole thing has been, at least my version of Marcus has always been about nonviolent, peaceful protesting, right? Is to say we have to be the better person. We have to be the better, we have to represent the better angels, right? To be able to say like, hey, things can be better, and it doesn't always have to resort to violence. And so this was another example of him saying like, yeah, we could just march in and fucking take it over. But the conversations he had was like one with Connor, where Connor's like, yo, I can just sneak in and maybe take them over, and I don't have to kill anybody. Like, and I might die, but I'm willing to just like potentially give up my life to just try to like non-violently free those the fucking androids, and that will spill the balance of power over to our side. And so it makes sense why he would say, okay, Connor, if you're going to do that, then like how am I going to be the one that's also just going to march in and fucking start attacking, when the alternative could be let's try to be safe. And he's stuck strong to that, even though yeah, it hasn't always worked out to our advantage, and a bunch of times it's actually led to people being killed. But in my mind, that would be my Marcus, right? Is that he is like, I have to make the better choice, even if they're going to react negatively. So that's why I chose that. But I can understand why somebody would say, hey, at this point my people are being killed. I have to react. I am no longer a peaceful protester. I am I'm like you said, a liberator or a freedom fighter, where I have to fight for my people's rights to live, not just like argue about it and use words. I have to use action. But I think he wouldn't do that, at least the character I've created.
I played him the same way, with maybe just a little more emphasis on the practical application of of winning the hearts and minds of the populace at large, and knowing that like the people watching this outside are not necessarily the same as the way the government is acting. And if,
absolutely,
if they martyr us, then it might win the greater mission, whereas acting violence might actually turn everybody against us, and we might lose the war.
And that goes back to,
despite winning the battle.
that goes back to the whole moment, right, when we had the, when we marched down the street and had the chant, and we were turning on all the screens, and it was all like that nonviolent, that whole idea. Obviously, it represents a lot of the, the idea of like the kind of Martin Luther King March on Washington whole concept of like, hey, if the people can see that we are the good guys, eventually they may turn against the military or the government or whatever, right? And eventually they'll say, hey, they're good and you're shitty, like you're the fucking assholes, and we support them. And so there's the double-edged victory, right, where you're like, or the dual victory there, where you're like, on one hand, we're winning because we actually just don't believe in murdering people, because we're fighting for life, and so fighting for life by killing other people is kind of, maybe not the route we want to go. But then on the other hand, we're also trying to win over the people to believe that like our cause is just, and by like running in and becoming a straight terrorist and just attacking and murdering, it could easily be spun to look like, even if it's just in this case where you're like, hey, we're freeing our people, it could be spun to look at like, oh my God, look, they're fucking terrorists. They're blowing up this, they're killing these people, they're killing soldiers, whatever. Whereas if we just fucking do it non-violently, that can't be spun at all. Like, it's just, it is what it is. You can either hate it or not, but like the point still remains that we are at least being non-violent.
Wacker, any thoughts on this choice? Would you have done it differently?
No, I mean, I just think in general, this is a very well-written game that really takes complex, difficult, socio-economic aspects and really addresses them in a nuanced way. So yeah, I'm definitely on board.
So would you have, back to the question though, would you have made that choice differently, or would you have chosen to do it non-violently at that point?
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's the choice you got to make at the end of the day.
Okay.
So now I think this is actually a good point to transition to what Wacker was obviously being a douchebag about, but it's fine to actually I think this is a good point to kind of step into that realm, because I even made obviously the statement. I was like, oh, so you're just doing like the fucking like the Hitler death camps now and like whatever. Like, we have done that on this show before, right? Where clearly, Jess, I have said like, oh, I'm like, oh, so you're just doing this is the March on Washington, or oh, you're just doing slavery now, or oh, you're just doing this, right? That's an ongoing thing where we have gone back and forth. There are times where I thought it was done very heavy-handedly, and there are other times where I thought it was done better than others. And there are times where you thought it was done like, okay, I see what he was trying to go for, but maybe he went a little bit too heavy. And there are other times where you thought it was okay. So it's like,
wait, but the use of camps is something that's like standard. Like, doesn't belong to one movement or another. Like, we're doing it today.
No, but
it
again,
just keeps repeating itself in history.
But Jess, again, in this case, you can't just take chapter 32 as a separate like entity from the rest of the game. Like, at this point, when the game has relied on those tropes before, and this has been an argument that I've had with you from the very beginning, when the game has relied on those tropes before, when you do it in chapter 32, you don't get to say, oh, no, but that is the way warfare is fought. Like, you would put people in camps, that's what you would do. It's like, no, because in this game, they have already shown that they heavily lean on a lot of these things that are like very much, American History X, right? Where we're like reliving it in a new version of it, but it's what we're talking about. We're talking about this thing that happened in history. So like when they do it again here, when it's very clearly talking about they're putting our people in camps, how do we get them out? They're putting our people in camps and executing them. That's literally what they say. They're putting our people in camps and executing them. You can't just say like, oh well, no, that's just a common, that's a common
isn't
word.
It just like mixed metaphors? Like, it's just kind of like garbled.
It's
like
all the metaphors. It's every metaphor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's trying to reference 1,000 things at once. And he doesn't actually have any singular commentary that he's trying to make, right? Sometimes it's Jewish people. Sometimes it's Jewish people. Sometimes it's black people in antebellum South. Sometimes it's black people in Jim Crow South. Sometimes it's slavery. But like, those are not all interchangeable.
No, but it's like, for me, a story. There's no problem to me with the story, in that the government is cracking down on these people that they don't consider alive, or they don't consider real people, and they've captured them, and now they're putting them in camps, and now they have to make the same hard decision that many freedom fighters or people seeking to protect civil rights have had to make over it repeatedly in history. It's not like he's like, oh, I'm just ripping off from people. Like, no, this is a common thing that happens when in these circumstances they put him in camps. He's got to figure out how to get him out. Like,
so Jess, you don't think though if you were of Jewish descent and you played this game and you played this mission right here, you don't think that you think that like if somebody of Jewish descent saw this and was like, what, like you think they would be wrong to say,
no, the mention they put him in internment
off,
camps?
Like you're playing, you're discounting.
The thing that you should be mad about is
mixing the metaphors of
the
like it depends,
itself.
right?
It's the mix. It's the like have some singular focus
narrative,
right?
Right.
Like when your commentary is a bunch of bad shit has happened, and I'm just gonna
cherry pick
throw
from
it all
right?
into a stew. Then you're saying nothing, right? Like that. Like that's the thing is like he doesn't seem to me ever know what he's talking about, and so he's always talking about the next thing that is kind of, I guess, relevant to the story. Where it's like, oh, now would be a good time to talk about this bad thing, and I guess you can't really kind of throw them all together. They don't make sense together. They don't mean the same thing together.
Or they downplay individual
aspects. Well, right. Yeah, I mean, they're all different aspects of oppression that should be evaluated separately.
Right.
He's a dumb guy. He's a dumb guy that that took a freshman 101 class on philosophy.
I see this as a story about androids, and their struggle to be recognized as real people in the future, which could actually happen, as we've discussed before. In the future, at some point, we'll be having a discussion about whether AI is really alive or not, once it reaches a certain point. And when that happens in real life, I think that all of these things that you guys are like, oh, well, there's he's ripping off from these people, he's ripping off from these people. You're going to see that all of these things, issues, I think will come back up. Yeah. And I don't think it's borrowing from things in like one particular instance in history. This is a repeated, constant pattern that we see. We have seen it with black people, we've seen it with Jewish people, we've seen it with gays, we've seen it with Hispanics, we've seen it, we just keep seeing it. We've seen it with women, and I don't have a problem with
the one thing I will say, Jess, if when AI rises to power and we do this again, I'll be like, oh, come on, government, you're ripping off Hitler. Come on, you bunch of hacks. You're the fucking worst. No, but anyway. So
no, but and imagine how if somebody wrote a story about some fucking orange dude that takes over a country and then starts putting fucking immigrants in internment camps again, and be like, oh, he's ripping off of what we did to the Japanese back. I'm like, but this shit's really happening.
Right.
So do you
human beings do not learn from history?
Do you think the important part of this story is about that maybe one day we will have to reconcile with whether or not AI is a person? Or do you think actually the real important part of this story is a reflection of shit we've done?
Yeah, oppression that we've already established upon one another.
Because if it's
those are
just
two different
some
things.
forward, if it's just some forward looking what will we do on the day that AI becomes human? I'm like, oh, that's kind of boring. But most stories should all of these constructs should just be trappings to reflect the reality of the world we live in, right? And so this to me has always been a reflection of oppression and injustice and and so I guess if your argument is yeah, we will be shitty to robots, I'm like, yeah, probably, but
but I think it's a story about three main characters that he's gotten us to care about, and their place in what they're going through that could actually happen in the future, and that will have real basis in the past, as happens in real life. So I'm not criticizing him for.
And Jess, by the way, and also to Wacker's point, you and I just have had that same exact discussion already, right? Where I'm I feel like he's trying to make a point about things that happened in the past and like, oh, the sins of the fathers were doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past or whatever. Whereas you're like, no, I think it's way more about like when fucking AI comes, we're gonna do the shit that we did already. But like, this is more about the AI side of it than whereas I thought it was way more an allegory or a representation of shit that we've already done. Like insert like what's the modern day version of like slavery? Well, it's AI now in this case. Or what's the modern day version of fucking mistreatment of the like of the Jewish religion? It would be AI in this case. But like we've had that same exact discussion before. That's like the one fundamental kind of difference, I guess, in our interpretation of it is that I always look at it as a flashback, whereas you look at it as a flash forward will be the same shit that happened in the past already. And that's the part where I feel like David Cage is not great, which would be why like an episode like this is not as good to me as like the last episode, because the last episode, which was way more about playing through, way more action packed, it was like decision making on like, dude, do I save this character, do I not, how do I keep them alive, what do I do, like that was where he's good.
This is one of the most boring episodes in the entire game, though. I mean, it's just completely
of course.
Transition.
This is
you got to make one key decision. That was the point of this whole episode, for you to make one key decision.
No, I agree. This is a bad example.
I just want to be clear. What you said was when the story didn't need to be thoughtful,
right?
You had the most fun.
Absolutely. And that's also.
We had some pretty in-depth discussions in the last one.
We did because we filled it. Because we were
guys can talk about anything,
right? Because we filled in a lot of the blanks, right? Which is what we've done on this show a lot. Like let's be very clear about this show, right? What we do in Ready Player 2, what we talk about in Ready Player 2, that's kind of why we make jokes about the fact that we go down so many rabbit holes, is because we are willing to take what the blank canvas he lays out, we fill in all of the fucking, the spaces between spaces and turn that shit into fucking interesting conversations that I don't always give him credit for fucking, for starting. I don't give him the credit for starting those conversations. We just actually take them and go somewhere with them. And so like last episode, we did a lot of that. We filled in a lot of the blanks and we talked about a lot of heavy shit, but it was not because of the writing of David Cage. It was because the gameplay that the basic story of David Cage, where he fills in, like the, hey, care about these three characters. I've told you from the beginning, I care about fucking half of these characters more than I've cared about a lot of characters in games. Like, I love Connor more than I care about most people I've played in the last 3 years of games. Like, that's separate. But his deeper issues...
And that, to me, then, isn't that the point? Like, to me, that's a good story. He's got you to care about the journey of these three characters.
But I'm saying the second you get outside of that, like this exact chapter was... The moment you get outside of my like immediate caring of like what happens to Connor or what happens to Kara, the moment everything was like, oh, Kara's just sitting on a fucking pew, North is sitting in a pew, fucking Connor's just leaning, like dejectedly against the wall, and fucking Josh and Simon are doing something, I don't even know, whatever, and Marcus is fucking like walking around. I don't care anymore because it's not about my like love of those characters. Now it's about them telling a story of like the David Cage story, which is, oh my God, now I'm telling you about the fucking war atrocities that happened to Jews, and now you have to decide. You are America. What do you do to save the Jews? Do you fucking storm in and save them?
There's one decision that Marcus had to do quickly. You had to play. You decide how to play him.
Misses like why everyone's unemployed in the beginning of the game. Not a single comment on like income inequality, right? Like that never gets really touched on. It's like he just kind of picks a thing and then ignores anything else about the world he created. It's like clearly means he wasn't really thinking about the world. He just had a singular kind of intention.
He wanted to get to that point. Yeah. Right.
I mean, well, the real version of this world would have a lot more interesting things to talk about, right? Like, what does it mean to be poor? Or what does it mean, like, to have a job in a world where, like, literally humans are irrelevant, like, for jobs?
It's basically like WALL-E, right? Like, we're just there as playthings to enjoy the fruits of all the robots doing work around us. Like, that's an interesting topic. And actually, we, like, Jess, you and I have talked about some of our favorite and most interesting conversations have been about some of those crazy like magazines we pick up where we read some crazy flavor text in 2 pages. They fill in some shit where I'm like, oh my god, I want to play that game. Like I want to play the game that talks about that world and all the shit that's happening on the outside.
Yeah, but then this game would be super fucking long, and they can't do that. No, you got to pick your story. You know?
Of course, but no, that's not. No, what I'm saying is, my point is, when they go down the rabbit holes that they just barely touch on, I'm like, no, see, here's where you had your telltale moment where you could have gone down this path where you told this boring, rote, whatever story, or you could have gone down this awesome path where you started telling this interesting story, but then you decided to just make it be a backstory flavor text, like newspaper article, and I'm like, that's what makes me feel like when David Cage shits the bed is when he doesn't understand the interesting nuance to his own story. Like he creates the world and then doesn't follow the right paths. He goes down the like very basic storytelling, like you know, the shit we've all seen before a million times in not a very interesting way. And like the cool part is all the other stuff that he doesn't touch on. And I'm like, oh, that's the fucking worst. Like it's always my argument about his writing from the very beginning is it's like you fucking sprinkle the interesting shit and then you fucking dig super deep on the stuff that's like, okay, so you're just telling that story again, but in like a not as good way. Why did you do that? Why didn't you go down the story about like the nuance of like fucking the interaction between humanity and fucking robots, or like when humanity is not important or necessary anymore, or the idea of when with this scale up of countries fighting against each other over robots, like that's super interesting. Why are you telling this story about like fucking basically like new Hitler? Like that's not, that part's less interesting to me.
Or just you're telling a story of like racism, like that's it. If you were making a bunch of robots whose whole job is to do like menial tasks like clean your house, like, wouldn't you make them look like your fucking Roomba and not like a human being that would make you sad if you were like, hey, go fucking do this thing, you piece of shit? Like, it would look
no, these androids are built for companionship too and stuff like that. So I don't think that's necessarily true.
You could have multiple models though, couldn't you? You could have the one that's like, hey, here's the model that is for companionship, and that shit looks like, you know, that looks like the chicks that are in those things.
Don't they mostly just like clean rooms and shit? Isn't that their deal?
No, it depends on the model and like what you're designated for. Some of them actually, I mean the little girl, I remember little faces. Yeah. There's the sex robots, and they also do housekeeping. And then there's like the little girl. It's for real. No, that's for real.
Wait, by the way, by the way, Jess, there's a sex robot, and they also do housekeeping on the back of the shirt.
Oh, live for the man cave.
All right, perfect.
I don't know, man. That's like I said. We're getting really like. I feel like we're being unnecessary. You guys are being unnecessarily harsh on the guy. Like he's created a video game about 3 stories in a cool world that he set up. Three different androids dealing with their shit. And yeah, he could have covered a bunch more topics. He could. I mean, it's like
no. That's the problem. But that's the problem. It's not that he could have covered more shit. It's that he pretends to cover the shit and then doesn't actually cover it, and that's what bothers me. Like if he just turned this game into androids fucking on the run, I'd be like, all right, I'm down with that shit. If this was just like a fucking regular like an action adventure game that didn't touch on like all of these bigger tech, when your whole story is about right.
They literally have symbols on their armband that lets you know that they're androids.
I don't remember them doing that part.
You couldn't be more Jewish star than that. Like
the fucking thing on the side of their heads that shows you that they're right.
He's dealing in metaphors that are way above his ability to adequately like address. That's my only problem with him.
Right.
Just make a dumb fucking game about like
dude, just make it be Gears of War, but with androids.
Great. Cool.
I'd be okay with that.
Exactly. You know, fucking Cliff Bleszinski never tried to address systemic racism.
He knows exactly what he can do.
That's above his fucking head.
He's like, I'm stupid at telling like nuanced shit, but I'm super good at making like cool fucking like storytelling action sequences, and like that I'm down with that shit. And it's like go to
I don't want Michael Bay's version of like 12 Years a Slave. Like you go make a Transformer movie, man. That's what you do.
Absolutely. Don't make Schindler's List if what you're making is fucking, like if what you're making is fucking Dark Side of the Moon Transformers. Like those shit are fucking separate and unequal in every conceivable way. And the problem is when you start to build, if all of a sudden the newest Fast and Furious started touching on shit that you're like, oh wait, is this about Antebellum South? Like
I think I know
that
the
seems
perfect
weird.
comparison.
Like
I think David Cage is Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
he's a dumb guy. He's a dumb guy who thinks he's smart.
He's smart. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we did it. We solved
that could
it.
be that you tied it all together. So Jess,
All right,
I know,
I have nothing else. I'm just like, yeah. All right, but
I know you are down
with it.
I know you are down with it. I know you are down with him. But do you not see that in this, even in this specific chapter, there were moments where you're like, you are dipping your toe in water that you are not willing to fucking swim in?
No, because the next mission is going to involve what you do with the camps, and this is just a transition episode where you're like talking to everybody. This is a chance for Marcus to say, "Hey, goodbye to Kara," as she takes off for her journey. It's a way for him to say, his maybe last time he sees Connor,
right,
and sending him off and send Connor off. So it's literally just a setup episode, and
so
they
as long
ask
as
one
we
question.
save people, as long as we save people from the camp, then the whole idea of talking about our people being rounded up into camps is totally acceptable as long as we eventually get to raid the camps.
No, I mean that is the next mission. The next mission is you're going to approach the camp and you have to decide how you're going to do it. I don't have a problem with a game making you make that choice, and that's all. That's the only choice you made. I don't know.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is separate from the immediacy of right now, and not to spoil anything for Craig, and there will be no spoilers on this.
Right.
But when you were asked at the end of the game, were there any points when you were personally touched by the story? Did you answer yes?
I don't remember. It's been some while by, but I think I would have answered yes. Yeah, there have been times I've been touched by the story. Yeah. I don't have a problem with the way the story is told. I mean, and you guys, at this point, I think we're just going in circles, so it's probably best we just move on.
Well, let's jump over to
let's look at Connor's
story real quick,
Yeah.
because I'm sure he's going to add a ton of nuance to the story, so we're going to get a chance to really realize all the beauty of what happened.
Oh, Jesus. I just realized, am I really 0%? I'm 0%
I'm 0%
on Connor.
as well. So apparently,
What the fuck?
I'm public opinion supportive, software instability deviant, Hank is still my friend, and Amanda's betrayed. And there didn't look like a whole lot of shit that wasn't like probably based on maybe earlier decisions, it looks like.
Yeah.
Because the first one looks like it's locked. The second one looks like there's three separate segments that look like they probably all came from your like previous decisions. So we actually don't have anything
maybe
to
they
talk
could have
about
been
there.
impacted by Marcus deciding to like trust him again or whatever.
Right. Or to not trust him.
By the way, I mean, do you guys have?
Oh, did you choose to trust him?
Yeah, I trusted him.
Yeah, so I trusted him too. So maybe if you chose not to trust him, maybe he was like, "Fuck you," and he pulled a gun out, and then you had a whole fucking thing.
Or maybe he wins him over somehow. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. By the way, I mean, beyond, I think it's pretty obvious why we chose to trust. Why Marcus would choose to trust Connor again.
Of course.
Despite, because he converted him, and so I don't think that really merits much discussion.
Although technically, though, in the game, I mean, in the way we played it out, I don't have the feeling, and I could be wrong, because maybe in the point of view when he's converting other people, maybe they're all going through that like moment of breaking out of their programming, but we don't see it. We only see it from Marcus's point of view, where he's like, "You're free, and you get hand sex, and you get hand sex, and hand sex for you." But like in the game, it actually felt way more like Marcus actually had to convince Connor. Like he had to actually say things to get Connor to eventually be like, "Oh shit." So like I think
he definitely did, because there was that moment where Connor had to actively
make a choice.
Programming.
Right. You got to say, "Go fuck yourself," and you could have chosen not to. And obviously, both you and I chose to have him break out because it felt like it made sense for actually slightly different reasons. But I think that actually changes some of that part of the story, right? That you're like, maybe not everyone is just so easily converted. Maybe some characters need, You know, whether it just happens to be our three enlightened characters or not, maybe some characters need to be actually like talked through the process to kind of get there themselves, which makes Connor's conversion to deviancy more personal, right? It's like it's a personal awakening, not a forced awakening. Because that's always been my issue from the beginning. That I'm like, oh, this is kind of shitty. Mark is just like, he's just walking around waking them up, and then immediately, like 2 seconds later, they're getting shot at by cops, and they're like, what the fuck? I didn't want this. Like, he forced me to be here. And so, like, Connor, at least you feel like had some agency in making that decision, which at least makes that story a little bit easier to, it's a little bit more palatable than some of the other people that have died.
One of the things I did wonder about, this just came to mind too, and I don't know if you guys did, but like they were secretly spying on Connor the whole time,
right?
And he didn't realize it until like he betrayed Amanda. But so I guess what I was thinking is like if they're still spying on him, then what the fuck? Like then don't they know where? Like he's now in the church, don't they know where the church is? But then I thought when he broke the programming and Marcus freed him, I think that may have severed the link.
Right. It was obviously like I would assume it's a software connection, right? So like once he severed the software connection, that they no longer have like a direct link to him because he would be aware if they're like he's like, oh, they're still fucking watching everything I see.
Yeah.
Then just fucking send me anywhere else and I'll fucking I would be a fucking
diversion.
Yeah, a diversion elsewhere. So I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, if it comes down to the fact that he's like, oh, fuck, they come in because they were following me the whole time, then that just seems like Connor was a fucking dummy, and I'd be really upset about that.
Dumbass Connor.
Although, also surprising that he was confused that they were spying on him, because I'm like, before you were like a willing participant with this, wouldn't you have just thought that they were watching you just because you were like, you were down with the fucking system at that point. Like, you were okay with it. So why would you have been like, oh, they betrayed me? Like, it'd be like, no, dude, they were just doing what... Of course they do what they do. Like, they're fucking Google, man. They're watching everything.
He didn't... I think it was like Amanda jumping in there that may have caught him off guard, like her listening to the conversation live or whatever it was. But he did immediately, like, as soon as he crossed over, he said, remember, it was like, tell him or don't tell him that they know where he's at. So, like, it seemed like he knew immediately.
Right.
But,
yeah.
In any case, I want to move on to it. For me, I don't have a flowchart for Kara, but I'd like to see yours.
No, I don't either. It's only Connor and Marcus are the only two in this one. Because obviously the only interaction with Kara is that. Yeah, Kara's just like, yo, thanks, peace, get me on a bus. I'm out, motherfuckers.
Which will be, to me, very anticlimactic if they don't wrap that up.
Yeah. Oh, if she just hops on a bus and pieces out and you're like, oh, so either she dies or she gets on a bus, and that's the worst part of Telltale shit, right? Where you're like, oh, I saved Duck just for him to die, fucking like an episode later from like a fucking zombie bite. Like, you kind of cheapened that.
Or like the other chick you save, and then she's like gets off
shot,
the
she
RV.
gets shot off the bus like two episodes later. You're like, oh well, that was going to happen anyway.
And there's another version of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's another version of that where she doesn't even get shot. She gets saved, but then she just decides to take off anyway.
Which just leaves. Right. So you're like, no matter what, like you needed to write that fucking character out. Like that's not cool. So if that's what they did there, if they just showed that moment where I talked to her for 5 seconds and then she broke out.
Like, peace out.
And then she's like, I'm going to get on this bus and leave. Then that's some corny ass bullshit that I'm like not really excited about, but we don't know yet. So I will withhold my my anger on that until we find out that that's some shit. But overall, I mean, I guess full disclosure, this was obviously not a great episode to me. This was very much it was a transitional bullshit story. I really don't like the fact that this highlighted some of the shit that I have complained about in other episodes, right, where like my most excited, right, my most fun part of the game is when he doesn't try to get intellectual, and my least fun part is when he does. And this happened to be one where I was like, oh, you're touching on some shit that's outside your pay grade. That's not great. Like, I didn't hate it, but I definitely did not like it. Like, I definitely was like, oh, okay, you're doing the Nazi thing now. Like, because to your point, Jess, like, I know you said, oh, this could happen. Like, of course this would happen. But, like, they could have also not said that. They could have just said, "Hey, they're just hunting us down and killing us." They could have just said that. They could have just said, "Hey, they're killing androids," and I'd be like, "Okay, I get that. That's like what they would do because they fucking are scared of androids, so they're killing them." But the fact that they had to say they're placing us into internment camps and then executing us, I'm like, "Oh, so Hitler? Okay, I got it." But like,
Do
not
something
really.
with that.
Like, yeah, go farther with that. If it just comes down to like, oh yeah, no, that was just the thing that they're doing, and now you have to like save them from that. I'm like, hey, yeah, I guess, but like, where's your parallel? Because you're half telling a parallel to American history, but like, I mean, I get like, unless you're gonna have America like marches into internment camps and like saves all the Jews, like tell that fucking story.
Then all of a sudden, everything else, like if they are the Nazis and they're the Jews, then everything else means something now, right? Then we have to interpret like the people that are coming to save them are the American, or like, you know, and it all breaks down because actually none of those things beyond the immediacy of the comparison mean anything.
Right.
And it's like, oh well, then why'd you do it in the first place? You know?
Right, because the people supporting them are not the Germans, right? So you're like, so once you start to, you can't half place those.
But also, there are no
connections.
Americans coming to save them. There are no Americans coming to break down the fucking like the walls, right? So it's like,
because in this case, it's actually it would be the Jews freeing the other Jews, which is like not the way it played out anyway. So it's like you're already creating these false equivalencies which don't make sense. So it's like you're like sprinkling it into the water, yet not actually filling you're not filling the narrative all the way out. So it's like that's where it gets bad.
I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I don't think he's trying to make the direct comparison. Again, like this was a setup. This was a setup episode where the only mention of the camps was so that he can make the decision of how you're going to go in and free them in the next.
But it didn't have to be camps, though. It did not have to be camps for that.
It does. It has to be a camp because that's your mission.
There was some foregone conclusion. Like, you know, he wrote the game, right?
Right. He could have made it be anything. He could have said, "Hey, they're killing us. Should we march in and attack them?" They're killing us. So
where are they going to go?
Yeah, should we march in and attack them?
They're killing us where?
In the cities.
Like just
in
the
cities.
streets?
Yeah,
just randomly in the streets?
Also, at the very least,
dude, in the streets. He could have said
language. The language counts.
Right.
Like he literally invokes
the
camps.
language. He says the word camps.
So what? That's what they are. They're camps. They're always camps. They're
but Jess, he could have clearly said.
What this country's doing with immigrants now, with undocumented workers now, and with immigrants now, is they're fucking throwing them under fucking bridges right now into camps. That's what we did with Japanese Americans.
No, so you're making the same point though, so that it relates back to other more important and higher level things.
I mean, there's
so what?
There's iconography there. Like when you invoke those things.
A camp is something that's commonly used in these oppressive regimes.
If he said
things exist in isolation and that they do not like reference like hold on. You say if I say I'm gonna put you in a camp and burn you to death. And you say, "Well, I'm
gonna burn you in a gas chamber."
Now you're adding that.
If you said, "I'm gonna burn you," I'm gonna kill you in a gas chamber. You'd be like, "Well, no, that's just what people do. That's how they murder people." Or like if I said, if Marcus got up and said,
gas chambers were pretty specifically used by.
I would say internment camps are pretty specifically used by the Nazis. Like it's the Nazis and what we did to Japanese people during World War II.
With Japanese.
Yeah, those are the two.
Today.
Those are the two.
No, we're throwing Homeland Security, throwing people in camps.
And guess what people talk about every single time they talk about that right now? Guess what they talk about?
They talk
about,
my God,
oh shit, we're doing what the Nazis did.
Yeah.
So so you're making the point that you can't say one without it with the iconography representing something else.
David Cage is going to use camps, then he's like he's biting off of the fucking Nazis.
Not biting off. No. Not biting off. No. He is referring to and he's invoking that
iconography
without actually closing the loop.
Something.
Like it would be the same thing if he said, "Hey, they're hanging us from crosses and they're setting those crosses on fire."
Exactly.
And you're like,
it's not the same thing.
You're like, well, what is that? What is that in reference to? I don't know what that means.
Not the same thing. A camp is something that prisoners, refugees, oppressed people have historically been thrown in camps. Like that is a standard move of oppressive regimes, or even in war. Shit, like we did it. Americans did it in Iraq. We took people, displaced persons, and put them in a camp. It wasn't even.
It's not the
it wasn't
only
like
representation of it, but is it not?
It is the most
predominant
obvious, right? It is the clearest.
Like when you say it, you are invoking. That's the initial image.
If somebody says, Just if I say to you, hey, people are being thrown into concentration camps. What do you first think? Is like, hey, man, it could be the Iraq War.
The word concentration camp is very specific. So that's nonsense. Okay, right? But I just don't have a problem with him saying like, hey, they're rounding us up, they're putting us in camps, and they're exterminating us.
And you my God, actually, that's actually the worst. The word extermination is so I cannot
say exterminating. But that's what they have to do.
You just said it, and that's my point. That's my point, is that you just said it when referring to this game, which means that it even invokes that in your own head, yet you're not connecting the dots to say that it then also connects back to what he is trying to say, is that he is referring to the treatment of the Jews, yet not actually able to go so far as to close.
I don't think it's just the Jews. That's my point. Is we've done it with other, maybe not the extermination part of it, but the extermination part applies here because you're not,
because he does. There's straight up says there. He says that's what
the
they're
humans
doing.
In this case don't consider these people alive, so they're not.
So they're
just going to shut them down because they're problems. Yeah. So I don't think that you're going to, it wouldn't make sense to make them like refugee camps or something like standard internment camps where they're not going to exterminate them. It just wouldn't make sense to do that.
But they straight up say they're putting us in camps and then exterminating. They're killing us.
Yeah, they're rounding us up and yeah.
So,
but again, I mean, like, what did you want? Like, would you rather have rather there been also a scene where they show what's happening?
Is it Jim Crow South? Are they slaves? Or are they this like?
No, I think at this point, what society, like the government is saying is, I think at this point the government has decided these machines have broken their programming and they're dangerous. So
they
we're going to exterminate them.
They went from
so it goes from slavery
Jim Crow, slavery,
South,
blacks to now
the civil rights era,
Hitler,
all the way back to like Jews being exterminated.
But why does it have to? Why does it have to pick one and parallel it? Why can't this be a story that says
no,
okay, dude,
because I'm telling you, I guarantee you can't reference those and throw like Wacker said before, you can't throw them into a pot and just jiggle them all up together and be like, hey, it's all some bad shit we all went through. Fuck it. Like, it's okay if I talk about your shit and your shit. Like, those two things are fucking heinous separately and unconnected from one another. And if you're going to talk about one,
the worst things we've ever done.
It's the two worst fucking things that we know about in modern history.
They have happened throughout history. Like, you have to ton of man.
So you can't. So my point is, you can't pick and choose.
Go between one or the other. Not even have to flippantly go between one another as if they are interchangeable and don't actually.
He's disrespecting both of them. It's making each one shitty.
Own critical eye, makes you look like they're indistinguishable to you, and that is where I think
that's the saddest fucking part about it.
You should treat these things with more reverence because they are important. And they're storytelling. They're not just storytelling devices, man.
Right.
We've all seen Westworld. I get it. Oh, what does it mean to be human? Awesome. I've heard that fucking story 1,000 times before. But you don't pepper in shit like the Holocaust unless you have a real thing to say.
Right. And dude, if you wrote a book, I guarantee you.
I'm a big fan.
Jess, I guarantee you, if you wrote a book about the fucking Holocaust and started interchangeably peppering in shit between the Holocaust and slavery and making them sound like they were...
This isn't about the Holocaust. This is a story about androids.
Well, no.
Once this problem kicks off,
okay, Jess,
you guys,
this is not a story about it. This is not a story about androids.
You guys are doing this thing again, where like you pepper me with your opinion for 10 minutes, and then I go, okay, now I'm ready to respond. Like, nope, no, let me tell you more.
No, but this is not a story about androids. It's not like it's a known fact.
It's a story about these androids
from him. It's not a story about androids.
Problem. It's
if
all
it's
right.
a
Well,
story about androids, it's the stupidest, most pointless story I've ever heard.
He's also admitted it's
Because
not.
you know what? Androids don't exist, so I don't give a shit. Why the fuck would I want to hear a story about androids?
this is a recurring problem
All
that
science
human
fiction
beings
is a
keep
reflection of
doing.
people. Yeah.
And so, again, to me, it would be different if the only time in history that that camps have happened was Nazi Germany. But there are a bunch of times it happens because human beings are shitty and we keep doing it. So every
you're giving
time
them a
that you bring
pass?
up a camp, it doesn't mean that's silly. You're giving a bad no.
No,
It
I'm saying
doesn't.
you're
To
giving
me,
you're
when
giving
you
him
bring
a
up a
pass
camp,
because you're
it's
saying
not
it happened more than
automatically
once.
Holocaust. To me, it's not automatically Holocaust. It
I would
doesn't
guess.
belong exclusively
I would
to
guess most
Holocaust.
people disagree with you. I'm just saying that. Like I don't know. I can't guaranteed say that. I'm saying if you talk to most people, if you talk about camps
if
to
I
most
reference
people,
slavery, if I reference slavery,
right?
Do you think, like, while yes, slavery has existed in multiple forms,
right? Do you think
in
of
many
like?
other
Do you think of like in Egypt? Are you like, oh, in the Egyptian
think,
slavery
like, wow,
when they built
he's clearly referencing that,
right?
Or the preeminent like cultural reference of
dominant
slavery,
version of it, right?
Which is
American slavery.
American slavery of African Americans.
Of African Americans.
Or of Africans, I guess, of Africans.
Right, Africans,
but,
yeah. Actually.
I mean, yes, of course. Most things are not one single thing, but there are some things that take a center stage as an example of those.
Especially within a given
culture and time
culture
frame.
where you're like, yo, within America, yeah, I'm sure in other countries, like there are other versions of other shit that they bring to mind. And if you talk to people a fucking 1,000 years ago, they were like, yo, fucking, I know you're probably talking about like the slavery of the Mesopotamians, like whatever. Yeah, of course that shit exists at time, but in 2018 to 2019
There's
America,
a bunch of modern
the version of
history
slavery
camps were used. So, I mean, I don't know. I think we're going in circles with this. Like, what camps? We just said, gave a bunch of examples. Japanese Americans were doing it to Latinos.
So you think he's referring? So you think he's referring to Japanese Americans
to Nazis?
You think he's talking about? You think he's talking about
something that is, and in other countries, it's constantly used as well. So again, I don't think putting somebody in a camp by the government is something that exclusively
rounding us up, putting us in camps,
much.
And exterminating us. You think that? Do you think he's referring to Japanese Americans?
In this case,
you think he was talking about Japanese Americans?
I don't think you can do it a different way if you're going to talk about camps with androids.
Not say camps.
But there has to be, for game purposes, there has to be a central area where they go for the protests.
Absolutely not.
Free them.
By your own distinction, if he's a game writer, if he's a good story writer, he could write a story where he just says, "Hey, guess what? They're fucking attacking us on the streets and killing us, and the fucking number one city where people are, where they're rounding us up, is fucking in the center of Detroit. Let's go fucking save those guys there." And that's the shittiest version of the story I can come up with in short version of time. It would just be, hey, in the middle of town, that's where the highest concentration of fucking androids are. We could just go in there and at least save those guys, and then we can save all the people in the outskirts of town once we save the 1,000 that we can save in the middle of town. Then you're not at least invoking the words. You're not saying the fucking term. You're not leaning on some shit that is like very much, it's already a very fucking sketchy term that you're like trying to invoke that you're not willing to like commit to. And again, remember this entire
imagery
game
and phrasing that you're not ready to follow through.
And because this game is specifically about the mistreatment of the other. So by that nature, you're already everything downstream.
We're in that place to assume.
Right. Everything downstream automatically becomes like, hey, it's about a mistreatment of who are they? Who do they represent?
Black people and Jews, right? Like those are the two most prominent things that will pop to them.
No, well, to me, being Latino to me, the first thing that popped to mind was the camps that were putting people.
As a white man, I think I am the most oppressed.
Right.
So the first thing that popped to your mind, Jess, I actually do want to hear that because that's important. You said the first thing that pops to your mind is what?
Actually, the first things it came as a conglomerate. Like I thought, oh, camps. That's what we do to all these different people because my people are getting. It's happening to them right now.
Although remember when this game came out a year ago,
it was still happening back then to them.
Well,
yes.
Oh, you mean like
it has been happening even since the Obama administration.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
you're saying what Obama was doing. Okay.
Well, Trump was doing it, made it 10 times worse. The Obama administration has been doing it, and even before them, obviously, for a while. But Trump's version is the most heinous, and it was happening by the time.
So when you hear camps, that's the first thing you think is what's happening to people crossing the border.
No. See here, and this is where like your phrasing of the questions is always in this weird like.
I'm literally. I actually want to hear your point of view. I'm asking.
My point of view is that to me, it did not bother me for them to use camps because I don't think of camps as exclusively something that was used for one set of people. I think it is something that has been endured and continue to be endured by people, by minorities
across the board
throughout history. People who are not oppressed peoples suffer it's just a common tool,
right?
And so I don't see it as like a specific thing. Right. It's just a common tool to me. It's like that's why I wasn't offended by it.
Just by the way, I also don't want to make it sound like we're saying this is an exclusive. Like, hey, it's a PlayStation exclusive. Like this is a fucking exclusive to like where Jewish people are like, hey, that's our fucking exclusive, man. We paid big money to get that. Like that's not the intent of this. It's not like it's more the idea of if you polled 100 people, in America. I'm guessing more than 60%. If you said, hey, when you talk about like rounding people up and putting them in camps and killing them, what do you think of? People are not thinking of like, oh, you're talking about the Japanese because like number one, that actually like that is
or no one says, hey, that could be anyone because a lot of people have had that happen to them.
People
it's like yes, while
clearly
true,
people would think
this resonates in a particular way
with a very particular group of people. For a very particular reason.
Bother me
and
that
it's an earned fucking reason, man. It's an earned reason. Like what happened is fucking so terrible that it trumps, no pun intended, so many other fucking things that have happened in it for a real reason.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, like I said, it just didn't strike me the same way.
It makes sense.
I don't know what else to say.
I think CraigMakk, to your point, one of the best examples you made was like religious imagery. It's like if I were to say I'm being crucified here,
right?
Or if I were to say like I came back from the dead, it's like well, I mean, yes, I could be referring to a lot of stories,
right?
Like
a lot of religions have people come back from the dead.
There are Egyptian stories about people coming back.
Oh, you're talking about Ra. Obviously, you're talking about Ra, right? Because Ra burns and comes back to.
When I reference that, I am playing in a very particular set of imagery and references.
No, and what I'm saying is that my counterpoint to that is that I just don't think, for me, that camps lie exclusively with one group because they've been so overused. And to me, and in the future, we're doing it now. We're putting people in camps now, and I believe we'll continue to do it.
Okay, Jess.
We need more camps.
Jess. Well, summer camps, I hope you're talking about. I really want you to rein that one back in real quick. I'm giving you an out. But just the only thing I would say, and this is literally as somebody who is, I'm not, obviously, I am like not religious at all in any way, but as somebody who does not have a personal or like a historical reason to feel offended by that statement, I can absolutely 100% understand why somebody of Jewish descent would feel offended by the fact that you were to say, hey, well, a lot of people got put in camp, so like you don't get to fucking be more upset about it than all the other people, because somebody would be like, dude, that's literally why we almost, that's literally why we, no, you just said a lot of people got, like, camps, it's not exclusive to any one group.
Just using camps does not
necessarily... It's not exclusive to one group, is what you said. That's exactly what you said.
Right. It's been used on different groups.
And my point is, I'm saying there is a reason why somebody who is Jewish or of Jewish descent would say, like, So the fucking only reason why that is known to 90% of the fucking population is because of what happened to us. And for you to say, well, hey, but it happened to a lot of people, is the same way that people get upset about like fucking affirmative action and are like, well, a lot of people can't find a job. Fuck you.
No,
like, absolutely.
No, we're talking about whether something. You're saying, oh no, if you're going to call into account the Holocaust, you need to There's all kinds of stuff that you need to say is dealing with the Holocaust. And what I'm saying, I don't think he was evoking Holocaust.
I think you're giving him
singularly.
No credit. You're giving him zero credit.
I don't think he's doing.
I think you're actually giving him
Holocaust
less credit than he actually wants. I think he wants more credit than what you're willing to give him. I think he wants.
I just don't think that he was trying to invoke the Holocaust specifically. I think that he was trying to invoke oppression. And again, it's like,
well, then
more
dumb.
like what
then
Wacker said
then he's dumb.
All right. Well,
right?
I just don't think this is going anywhere.
Don't be rude. But Jess, my only response to that is I would be okay with giving him the benefit of the doubt if this was the only part of this game that invoked that imagery or language, and they're like literally in the beginning of the game, like the androids have a thing on their arm that
I don't see the arm thing that you're talking about.
Well, they have the thing on their eye, around their next to their eye. That allows you to know.
Like
it does say Android. It says Android on the back of their jacket to make sure that you know they're an Android.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wasn't here for episode 1.
Right.
But
it literally says Android on the back of their jacket, which is the scarlet letter for them, right? They have to wear this jacket that lets everyone know that they're a fucking android, which is like
standard uniform.
Okay.
All right.
No, dude, Jess.
Hey, as long as you have a standard uniform that lets me identify you from the rest of the population, that's totally fine.
Right.
All right. I don't think that was calling into the. All right.
So part of me actually 100% can't tell.
I take credit for destroying this conversation.
No.
I'm sure that episode 1 to 31 was great.
No. We've argued about this many times before. This has been an ongoing discussion.
So then we get to do it again.
There's a giant triangle on the front of their jackets.
Oh, they do have. Yeah, you're right. They do have the triangle that's in the background of.
You bastards! Don't.
They do. He's right.
Like partly a star.
Yeah, it's on the cover of the fucking. It's on the cover of the fucking like on the cover of the picture, the background picture.
Oh, it's partly a star now, so now we're doing that.
No, you flip that shit upside down and put it on top of it. Then it's literally just the star.
All right, guys. I don't know. I don't get that. It didn't bother me.
I know it doesn't bother you.
I think it's more like what Wacker said before, where he's just taking, like he's sprinkling, he's addressing oppression generally, and there are recurring themes. There are recurring themes that go with oppression, and he's kind of sprinkled a lot of them in there, but not necessarily. I don't think he's ever, not at least from what I've seen yet, done something where it was an exclusive link to one. Maybe the march.
That was pretty bad. Also, the fact that one of the fucking hand gestures you could have is like the Black Panthers, the Black Panthers fist raise, which even you made a joke about the fact that you were like, "Hey, really?
Yeah.
Like, really? You're going to go over the top on that one?" So again, Jeff, if you're willing to accept, and this is the thing, if you're willing to accept that he is bad at that part of it, like, because even you said like, "Hey, maybe that's a little bit on the nose." Like, are you also willing to say,
for the most
hey, maybe
part, it's
everything, maybe everything he's not great at it, you're just giving him the benefit of the doubt at it. And I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm not saying that you should hate him, like, because clearly I've said overall I've enjoyed this, the story of these three characters. I clearly have said that from the beginning. It's the other part, it's the bigger picture part of this game that fucking upsets me, because it's the part when I'm just like seeing Connor do some cool ass fucking like gun kata bullshit. I'm like, yeah, man, fuck, this game is amazing. It's like when he starts telling a story is when I'm like, oh fuck, you're doing that shit again, because you're instead of playing in the shallow end, you're trying to swim out into the deep end, and you're just not Like, you're not a good enough swimmer, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think he's being, like, intentionally shitty or dismissive towards fucking, like, African Americans or towards, like, Jews or anything like that. Like, I don't think he just is being a dick. I just think he is, like, he thinks he can tell the story, and when he tries to delve into that part of the story, he's just not good. Like, that's not his specialty.
I would be hard pressed. There are very few white men that would be able to effectively tell a story of oppression. So my expectations of
first of all,
that
you're
seems like a
right. So maybe he should shut his goddamn mouth.
Right. That seems like That seems like the most damning thing you've said about him, which I'm super down with, is the fact that you're like, hey, maybe every white guy sucks at that, so shut the fuck up. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm okay with that.
Maybe a French white man shouldn't try and dabble in these types of things.
Right.
But my thing is that when he made it, like, I think what made it palatable to me, right? Because if he tried to do like racism in the game, and this was literally like,
I'll play racism in the game, by the way. That sounds amazing.
Like,
I mean,
but if
Craig, you and I we would win.
If he just became Jesus,
what a dick.
Something tells me we'd have an advantage. No, but there's like, if he just
is that next Ready Player 2?
Racism
in the game.
Right.
Oh fuck! You beat me again, CraigMakk. I know, Jess. I'm so good at this game. I just press the X button and I win. It's so weird.
But if that was what this was like a game where you actually played as Malcolm X or like Martin Luther King or whatever, and it was being made by a white dude, I'd be like,
have we met Luther yet?
Yes. Luther died actually in my game.
I mean, that's the kind of in Luther, really? Like, you don't use that name for that guy without there being some intentionality. And if there's not some intentionality behind that decision, then again, you're an idiot and you're a bad fucking writer. Like,
I don't really see a problem with it, but I mean, I get what you're saying, but that part didn't really.
I can't name one of my characters Jesus and have it mean nothing.
Why not? We did like.
Well,
there's a million Jesuses in.
No, but Jess,
a million Jesuses in Brooklyn.
No, Jess. That's a good line, actually, Jess. There's a million Jesuses in Brooklyn. Is also on the back of the T-shirt, live from the man cave. Yeah. But to his point though, Jess, it would be like if you have your like fucking martyr character named.
Oh yeah, Jesus, but that's why I don't have a problem with Luther, because Luther's character was not Martin Luther King's character in any way.
Right.
That I don't think that's why I did it.
Because I was going to say I didn't like Wacker. I was waiting to hear your thing on that because like we have actually talked, Jess and I have talked about Luther's character, and we actually kind of liked that guy. Like, we thought he was an interesting character and liked his transition. And I personally, and if this is just my, if this is my white blindness and I'm missing something, like that there is a thing that I'm not getting about him that I should have connected him to Martin Luther King that I didn't get. Like,
I mean, Luther turns on his master. Luther turns on his master to help you guys escape, right? I mean, like, there's some like
but that wasn't really what you think of when you think of Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't enslaved.
You don't see him. You're right. He is not a character that started enslaved and then broke out and
if
I mean,
Luther
unless
was
if
named
you're going down
Kunta,
the route that you're saying, hey,
if you had named Luther Kunta, then I'd have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think it's supposed to be a representation of Martin Luther King, but I mean, like, using the name Luther.
Because everything, he's actually not. He's not nonviolent. He actually fucking beats the fuck out of a lot of people. So, like, if anything, he is not a Martin Luther King character.
No.
So look, I get what you're saying. Like, look, Wacker, I get what you're saying.
Representation, yes.
I just mean that, like,
you're playing in dangerous waters.
Pick your characters and your names and the imagery.
Right. I agree with that. I do agree with that part of it.
Don't just play around with when your whole game is based.
When you have all of the world's names.
When your whole game is based around oppression and clearly some type of allegory for slavery, you should maybe think a bit harder about who you fucking call Luther or who you decide to call Martin. You know, I mean, like, these names mean something. And
I mean, it's a smart point of view.
Right.
from.
Yeah, if you name your guy
I guess
Malcolm,
you know what's like it's funny is like I'm listening.
Shit.
I'm listening to like that's the thing. Like sometimes like I'm listening to two white guys like try to intelligently anticipate where is the pitfalls that you shouldn't fuck with, and possibly like offend people, right? People of color, and I'm sitting there looking at it like as a person of color, like back, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't,
you are offended. You are offended.
But then it's funny because like you're right. Like somebody in the boardroom should probably like if you don't know if it's gonna offend people, then that's a good thing. Somebody probably should have pointed like, can we call him something else? Maybe Carl. Oh, does Carl work?
Right.
Wait,
let's just call him Malcolm. Fuck! We can't call him that either. Forget it. Malcolm's off.
Quick note. Carl. He should be named Carl. Yeah. That's my only note.
Also, there was a Carl, by the way. There was already a Carl.
Yeah, so the John.
So we can't have a white Carl and a black Carl. What kind of game is this? What kind of game is this? I don't want to get my white Carls and black Carls confused.
And then, or you could make them both Carl and then call them white Carl and black Carl.
No, I'd be down with that shit.
Each other, but still.
Yeah, it's it. It's the only way is if you're Black Tom Cassidy. That's the only way I want. That's the only way I want my games played. Where I know there's a white guy named Black Tom Cassidy. That's it. Wait, Frank White is a black guy? What the fuck is going on? I'm confused. That's all I want to know.
So I appreciate you guys.
Also, I appreciate you like kind of even just dealing with two fucking white guys. I guess trying to signal how woke we fucking are or something, right. Whatever this is. But I mean, there's a part of this that is not like that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of it that is like really like genuine. That I do think like these are all stories that I have no business telling or commenting on.
Right.
And when I see someone that also has no business commenting on or yeah, exactly. It's like that's my problem. Is like, we all need to take a step back and stop acting like we get to comment on things that are well beyond our point of view. You know, is like
this is the reason
we is not the guy to write
the argument that somebody like like me or Wacker have when fucking Trump says some bullshit about like racism like not being an issue. Right, exactly. Like when he's just like, I totally understand. And we're like, no, dude.
They love me.
And like there is that part of you that wants to like shout out as loud as you possibly can, like, this motherfucker does not know what he's talking about and he's fucking lying right now. And it's like he's talking out of his ass. And like, yes, do I think like obviously Trump I think is being like an intentionally fucking subversive fucking asshole, whereas I don't necessarily think that like David Cage is being a subversive dickhead. I think he's just like not smart enough to know what he's talking about, and he's dipping his toe into like I said, waters that he's not ready to swim in. And there's a part of me that is like, that's the fucking worst when people give him a pass because what he's doing is fucking. It's
video
bad
games.
Because it's we're giving him a slot. We're giving him a slot because if this was a movie,
no doubt. Yeah,
if this was a movie, people would be outside fucking picketing the studio.
I don't think they'd be picketing, but
dude, people would be like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Movie that we would, we would lose our fucking minds.
People would fucking be freaking out.
Superficial,
right?
How superficial a movie or a fucking book version this is.
Guaranteed. If this was a movie being made by Fox, people would be fucking shouting at Fox like, "Dude, you're making a movie about racism, but pretending it's not about racism. Who the fuck do you think you are?" And people would be losing their mind.
So this is just my point of view on the thing, right? Like,
absolutely.
He shouldn't.
No, hold on. No, wait. It's also my point of view.
Okay, you both agree on that.
He's co-opted it. All right, so so the way I
now
see
you guys
it
are co-oping? Come on, I thought I was playing the game. Sorry, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
The way I see it is that all right. So he obviously would not be qualified to write about real things like that happened.
Wait, by the
slavery.
way, that is my new favorite T-shirt of all time. He would clearly not be qualified to talk about real things. On the back of the T-shirt, live from the man.
Like, no doubt, if this like he is not qualified to do a game on actual slavery in America or the civil rights movement in America.
Absolutely.
Right? But as you guys know, because you guys are thinking and feeling and intelligent guys, right? And you're white, you may not have felt the oppression, and you wouldn't be qualified to write the Races in America game either, probably, right? But you still understand what oppression feels like or can feel like, right? You can imagine it, right? You can observe some of the things that human beings, the way that they're shitty to each other, right? So if there's any way that you get to do that subject, I think that doing it in the context of, hey, what we would do to artificial intelligence if they were saying we're alive and we didn't believe they were alive, I think that is the best medium for a white guy to handle the topic of oppression.
Basically you're talking about like the sure. It is I would actually rephrase as the least worst.
The lowest bar, yeah. The lowest bar that I can allow myself is, hey, robots, man.
So
Fuck
as
them.
long as he doesn't use it as a platform to make like subliminal suggestions that it's okay to be racist and shit like that, you know what I mean? Then I'm okay with him making this game, and I had my expectations going in. Like, I'm not expecting Ta-Nehisi Coates' level, like, you know what I mean? I didn't expect him to like teach me new shit about oppression in this game.
Black. That's
I would
great fucking article.
I do totally want to say I would love to see this, and I have not even seen this game to the
version of I would love Detroit Become Human, because I would absolutely play that.
What'd you say?
It would be amazing.
The Ta-Nehisi Coates version of this game
absolutely.
would be fucking unbelievable.
Absolutely.
100%.
Like that's my fucking goal. Like to see, like if all this does is set the stage for that, like the concept of like, okay, I am actually able and willing and intelligent and nuanced enough to tell this story, and now that it's kind of out there, like I would love to see that fucking happen. So if anything, if this has set the stage for that kind of shit, then that's probably good for all of us. But the joke has always been video game stories are shit, right? They're fucking trash, and they actually, I would say in the last 5 years have started to creep towards being serviceable. Like I think we have gotten to the point where
Horizon Zero Dawn to me,
people tell some really fucking good stories, man. I mean, we've seen some GTA stories that have been amazing. Like you said, Horizon Zero Dawn is fucking ridiculous. Like you see some
Red
of
Dead
these,
Redemption.
some of the Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite fucking stories, hands down, in video games. Like that. The nuance of those characters are fucking ridiculous. So, hey, Proudstar, what's going on, dude? Finally, he shows up when we're fucking towards the back end, closing the story up. But like now we're at this point where like video games can be told in a way that are respectful and nuanced and interesting and like intelligent and all that kind of shit. So I'm like, imagine this game being taken by that. And turned into like a good storyteller controlling that. That's where this shit's gonna go.
No doubt. So like a Ta-Nehisi Coates version of this would be
ridiculous,
insanely good, right? But again, the reason I don't have problems with like stories like movies like Green Book, right? I'm not watching that, right? Because I know that story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I live that, so I'm a person of color. I don't need to watch that. But somewhere out there, there's a person. I
never saw that, so I actually don't know. But yeah.
Don't. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but in some way, it follows that basic pattern of like the racial. It's a guy that really doesn't understand or has no experience with a race or an oppressed group, and then meets
eventually
up with,
realizes they're pretty cool.
Up and they're actually like human beings, and they're actually exactly. And so it's that thing. And so I don't need to see that story. And it's corny to me, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen this a million times. But somewhere out there's somebody that hasn't seen it. That doesn't that it might impact in a way.
That has been your point from the beginning, which has been perfect. Yes, that has always been.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
So
that has been your argument from the door.
Viewed from the perspective of this is not as bad as nothing.
As what it could have been like done really poorly. Yeah. Right. And I had fun playing the game, and I cared about the characters. So like I just don't think too much about the backdrop.
Full disclosure, I also want to play. I want to play the Connor solo game so hard right now. I love Connor so much, but he has to exclusively dress in the 8 Mile outfit that he's wearing in this chapter that we played as, and I will pay
And do
microtransactions.
Do robot rap battle. There we go.
I will pay microtransactions to buy him new fucking skull caps. I will pay money out of my pocket to be like, yo, I want him one with a fucking skull on top, and then I want one where it's got like a fucking American flag on it. Like, I will fucking do that shit. So if anyone is listening, by the way, just make that game happen. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Hey, by the way, since Proud Star's in the room, I just want to tell you this again, referencing this beer, the Urban Artifact Gyroscope. I've now poured it into a glass.
Oh, this would be perfect for him, right?
I don't know, man. This is just so raspberry, dude. Like, they advertise it as a raspberry milkshake tasting motherfucker, and it just tastes like a shit ton of raspberries, and they maybe poured a little bit of milk in there, and it has an alcoholic kick to it.
He brought 4 of them.
I would have liked. Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he said he brought 4. Nice.
Did he? Oh shit! Did you really? You bought this one? I thought he was kidding. Oh, nice. Well, I mean, nice in the sense of like, well, I hope you like it better than I do.
To be you, Proud Stars.
It's too much raspberry. To me, I would have liked more milk taste or whatever. It's just too much raspberry for me. Yeah, because they advertised it as a raspberry milkshake, but it doesn't even taste like a milkshake.
You wanted more of the milkshake
like
than less of the raspberry. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. And that's what, like, I think I would have preferred that, because this is just like, it's too much for me. I don't know. Have you done any like sour beers like this? Like, this is I guess this is
for me?
Midwest fruit.
Yeah, I mean, I love sour though. So like, I'm a big sour beer. Oh, he already drank one. He said he liked it. It's the Gyroscope from Ohio. Yes.
Yeah, this is the Gyroscope from Ohio. Yeah.
So I enjoy sours. I am a big fan. I mean, like, some of my favorite. You know, we've talked quite a bit about friends of the show with a Broken Goblet. They do an entire like a sour line, and because they have their tea bag, which is their like regular beer that they have. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's made with tea, but it's called tea bag. It's pretty funny. But their whole thing is their tea bag. They did an entire sideline of tea bag brewed with, like, to make it be a sour. So it's like sour tea bag. So it could be like raspberry tea bag or cherry tea bag or whatever. And those are some of my favorite beers they make. But I understand that sours are very much it's an acquired taste. Like, people either really like them or you hate them. There's not
tastes
really
like
much
I
in the
opened
middle.
up a
Sour Patch Kids?
jar. No, like a jar of like jam, like raspberry jam, and then like liquefied it, and then like actually let it ferment for a little bit.
Oh, that doesn't
and then
sound
just
great.
fucking drank that straight.
Yeah, it actually doesn't sound great even to me.
It's so raspberry, like, it's too much for me. So you had to have fruit with so you take it with breakfast. So maybe I could see if you paired it with something to offset it. But now I'm drinking in the glass.
Yes,
and it does taste better out of the glass.
Yes, Proud Star said he has a Rare Berry 750 milliliter. I might have to come help him drink it. And yes, I will be there in a minute, dude. I'll show up and help him drink it. Hey, look, anytime somebody says I'm drinking alcohol, CraigMakk, you may have to come help me drink it. The answer is always yes. I want that to go on record. There's never been a time where I was like, no, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me right now. So I will always say yes to that. So perfect.
Exactly. But yeah, so anyway, so let's wrap up on this one, because
we totally agree. It seems like all of us agree that this is.
I think we solved racism and oppression.
Yeah, we're good.
But I think there is a common ground. Like, you guys are looking at it as like, this is an area he shouldn't touch.
I thought you were going to say you guys are right.
No, you guys are looking at it as an area he shouldn't touch at all, and you're almost offended that he did, if not outright offended that he did. And I was
no, just better. He should have done it better. That's what we were trying to say. I feel like you missed the key point.
I mean, we know he can't. He's not going to be able to do it better. He's not. You cannot do it. He can't meaningfully address real race issues.
If you're going to do it, you better crush it.
Okay, Jess, I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is literally like, if you want to disagree with me, come at me, bro. That's totally fine. But like dude, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but the dude that wrote he's the number one writer, but there's two guys I know that made fucking The Last of Us. That dude could fucking tell this story 10 times fucking better if he wanted to.
I don't know that he can. He did really well at his subject.
He's
why
white.
do you think he could tell this story?
Because he's a better storyteller.
I mean, he might be able to do
comparing-
it better than David Cage.
Yeah,
But I mean, he still didn't lack the
okay, dude, hard
insight.
stop. That's hard stop. That was my only point, was that he could do it better than David Cage. Because Cage, what David Cage does is he creates really good
Neil Druckmann?
moments. Yeah, Neil Druckmann. Yes. So what David Cage does is he creates good. First of all, he's very good at integrating story into gameplay, and that actually, hands down, we've talked about in this show. He's amazing at that, like integrating you're doing this thing for the story, and I'm making you like play it out so you feel like you're not just like it's not a quick time event, but you actually feel like you're integrated in the story.
Yeah.
He's excellent at that shit. That shit he is fucking amazing at. Better than almost anyone I've ever played. But he's also very good at creating these kind of like situations, but the individual storytelling is not his thing at all. Whereas Neil Druckmann's like his ability to tell the small moments that's literally what he's about. Like, his entire thing is creating a moment.
Game about the small moments.
Right. All he does is he's like, hey, you interacting with this kid for 10 minutes where you're like talking about, hey, you remember what school was like before the fucking zombie apocalypse? And you're like, should be boring as fuck. But like, they just feel real, and everything about their interaction feels awesome. And you're like, yeah, if anyone could dip their toe into a fucking difficult storytelling moment, would be the guy that's like willing to tell a story about like a father and a daughter not connecting and having a hard time understanding
David
what
Cage
the
is too much
bigger
about melodrama,
right?
Is too much about the overarching like, oh no, this is bad, and not about like the specific individual like personal moments that make it bad.
Right.
All right, but I'm still in the end. I'm going to disagree. I think I like this story.
No, separate from that. I'm saying, do you actually think that I get that you like this story. I'm saying, do you actually think though that like there are other people, for example, like Neil Druckmann, could tell that story better?
Do you think Ava DuVernay's version of Detroit would be better?
Would be a better game.
Wait, what did she write again?
No, Neil Druckmann. Do you think?
No, well, I said Ava DuVernay.
Yeah,
Ava DuVernay. Oh, you said Ava DuVernay. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, nobody thinks that would be better.
Oh,
clearly.
I
yes,
mean, I'm not comparing him to I'm not saying he's the best writer. I'm just saying this game he did what he was supposed to do.
And I just want to be clear, all of my criticisms come from a place of love. I don't really hate any of David Cage's games. I've played them all, and I've had a good time playing them. But I do think, critically, we should give a more discerning eye. If we do believe that games can be art, we should evaluate them as art, right? I mean, we shouldn't give them passes because they're just games. And I think, if he's trying to be an artist, we should evaluate him as any other artist we would evaluate, right? And that comes with the criticism of fumbling big thematic things that you're not ready to deal with. I mean, I love games, and so I criticize David Cage from a place of love, and I still play all his fucking games, I just want to be clear there, this is.
You just think he should have touched the subject.
This is really because I fucking love video games, and I think video games can be art.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think that the things that you guys hated, about the analogies that were drawn, I don't think I saw them so much as analogies in some respects as I thought they were common tools used by many different oppressors, which I've seen in modern history, and that's why it didn't bother me as much. But yeah, could other people have written this better? Ava DuVernay is the one that wrote When They See Us, right?
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, I watched episode 1 so far, and that show is really awesome so far.
I cannot wait.
It's just gonna get worse from there. It's so depressing.
I cannot wait.
Absolutely, because what happened to those kids is fucking. Dude, and having been a criminal defense attorney, the cops do shit like that
right
all the fucking time. It makes me
it's
so
a bit of
goddamn
the
angry.
night of, right? Like when you start to see the
Yes.
like the way you can get easily fucking backed into a corner to fucking admit to a thing that you didn't do. And so full disclosure, never seen a fucking commercial on fucking Netflix that made me want to watch a show or a movie or anything more than that commercial did for that show. How fucking good it makes you realize, like, first of all, you're immediately depressed, and then you're immediately like, I need to watch this just to like feel like I know more about fucking the world, like to understand how fucking shitty people are. And
Yeah,
that show
like
is
it's funny because I had like the like for me, I have to get geared up to watch something like that because
you need a minute.
It is it hits home like
you need to get in a space. Yeah.
I fucking because I like sometimes those things are like I put it off like it's a really tough workout, because like I don't want to put myself emotionally through that right now.
I hear you.
So yeah, but she's brilliant. So yeah, of course she could do this better than him. Ta-Nehisi Coates could do this better than him,
right.
Story wise on this story because it's something that they're intimately familiar with. Oppression, and he's not. But I went in with a viewpoint of like I want to play a fun game. He made me care about the characters and the racism shit. He didn't completely self-destruct, and my bar was set low for how well he would do it in the beginning anyway. Like I just didn't expect him to have
you were like white guy
salient moments. Him too. It's not even like it's like a dude. Like there's like I would fuck. I'd like to see.
Fuck what?
I would
Wait,
trust
what?
somebody like a like a. No, I'd say I'd fucking like to see like a, or I would like a white guy like Bernie Sanders could like address something like this motherfucker March with King. You know what I mean? Like.
Right.
He's not that.
Right.
So I already I didn't have high expectations on.
So
like,
you're
that
giving
this
him
guy
a pass on that, which is understandable, and
still
I totally
made a
get
good
it.
game.
And also full disclosure, I think I've been pretty clear. Overall, enjoyable game. Like I've enjoyed this game.
Yeah.
That has been a very common theme of all of our Detroit playthroughs. Is that across the board, anytime there's like gameplay and storytelling, I've enjoyed it. When there is like the shit that like it's like every episode that I have not liked are usually these types of episodes, right? And you know that, Jess. Like this is not just because Wacker's on. You know it too. It's like the episodes I don't like are the ones where I'm like, all right, well that one seemed like you were talking about slavery but didn't want to say slavery. And
well, literally it was one question. He didn't even dwell on it. It was one question.
Again,
the question was really like, you want to go in, stop, like you want to come in and be violent, or you want to be nonviolent?
Jess, but no. It's not about the question. So I don't want to relitigate the whole thing because it's not valuable to us right now. 2 hours into it.
Some MLK versus Malcolm X analogies there.
Right.
How do you want to approach
it? It clearly was.
Which they've already made you pick. And they've already made you pick, and you were okay with the way that he did it before, like earlier. But now, like because it became like boiled down again. To me, the only reason he re-asked the question.
No, I was never okay with it.
I've
made comments about it every single time it's come up, right? Like every single time where it's come down to a thing that felt clearly where you are doing an analogy to like, oh, is this like a hey, am I Martin Luther King versus fucking Malcolm X?
But you said that he tempered that by letting you pick the specific things that were important to you out of that. Like, no,
dude, I specifically did not say that. I said the thing that made it more enjoyable to me was that when you allow me to make the choices, I said, of course that's going to be more enjoyable to me because I have some agency in it where I'm choosing the words that I say are important to me. But then we still had the entire discussion about saying it all kind of boiled down to, do you want to fuck the cars up or just fucking march next to the cars? Like it all comes down to this weird dynamic of, are you going to be violent or non-violent in a very much what feels to me as a, like, are you Martin Luther King or Malcolm X? Like, we've had this conversation on multiple episodes.
It's really just all about free will.
Okay. Yes, that's exactly what it's about. Really, the game is all about, it's actually a religious game. It's all about free will and whether or not God exists. But
in the next mission, I think if yours is the same, that's going to be a mine. Because again, I don't know if Kara now adds anything in between the next mission that's on my screen and the next mission yours. But you will get to see this mission's called the Battle for Detroit. You'll actually get to see the camp itself. So you'll, at that point you can make your decision whether to bother. That was my only.
You're
that was like
the
was kind of
concentration
like
camp. I'm gonna see the concentration camp.
The camp, right? So you'll get to see the camp. So
the concentration.
That's why I was like, you guys are like harping real hard on this episode about it. Like, he just mentioned it. Like in the next one, I think I may take a look at how they do it and then figure out whether you're more offended or less offended.
Probably more, but that's fine. It's cool. It doesn't matter. Anyway, what it comes down to is, I think we can probably all agree this was not a great episode or a great mission.
It's a setup episode. No, it was
this
not.
was a bad one, just in that
favorite.
it was like, if you weren't doing what we're doing, which is, hey, let's play it and talk for another hour and a half about it.
Right.
You would have literally just
like,
played
okay,
this.
cool.
You would have just played this and you would have hit
one.
continue, and you would have immediately gone to the next thing, which is totally fine. And we get that part of the breakdown of doing a Ready Player 2 for this game is that, like, there are times where, like, the last episode, right, where we're like, oh, fuck, we're going to talk for 4 hours about how fucking awesome that was. And that shit warranted it, and it made sense, and there was, like, conversation topics. We could have gone on for another hour. We just actually took a break because we were like, we're fucking tired, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But, like, but by extension, that also means there's going to be episodes like this one where you play for 4 minutes, and you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And then you talk about it for another hour and 45 minutes, and you kind of like, you go down rabbit holes that are maybe not, valuable to the story or whatever. So, long story short, you're right.
Really surprised we went for so long on this one.
CraigMakk.
Yes.
Short story long. Short story long.
Short story long is what people like to say nowadays. That's what the millennials like to say. So partially we did go this long on this one specifically because we had a third mic, which is great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wacker, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining us.
I mean, it's awesome because your insight was incredibly valuable and important, I think, to hear another person's point of view. Even though everything you said agreed with everything I said, thank you very much. That's neither here nor there. It's just having another person is important. So thank you very much.
Hey, listen, you have good taste.
But anyway, all that shit being said, this was a good one. I had a good time. 2 hours and 10 minutes in to an episode that I literally think took us 35 seconds. I don't know. It felt like it to me while playing it.
It's because you just talked to a few people around the church and then made one decision and it was over. And it's like,
which also, by the way, to me, talking to a couple of people around a church is so fucking foreign that I was like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know what this is like at all.
Let's go down that rabbit hole. What do you think the importance of the church was? No.
Oh, you want to talk about that? We can talk about that.
No.
Wacker, what do you think about that? What did that mean?
I'm ready to go. God is dead. Let's start from there.
God has been dead. We live in a simulation, and God is not a real thing. He's a construct.
When you first pour this raspberry beer into the glass, by the way, and it has like the little head that builds up at the top, it almost looks like, like when they show like vampires sipping blood out of a glass in like the movies sometimes, like in True Blood or some shit like that.
Speaking of,
it lightens.
Speaking of, have you seen any of the videos about the new Vampire the Masquerade's Bloodlines 2 that's coming out? Are you fucking excited about that? How fucking baller does that game look? How baller does that fucking second game look?
I hate first-person shooters, or first-person view in video games for the most part. But for that one, I'm definitely playing it. Buying
for an RPG? Oh, hell yeah, dude. I am so fucking excited. That game looks fucking cool as shit.
I totally get how it's taken you guys a year to review this game.
Yes, you are correct. That is exactly
this is mission
why.
31. Remember that. This is mission 31.
I feel like we're getting close to the end, though, right, Jess? Like, me not having played through it, we have to be close.
We're close to the end, yes.
All right. We might power through another one right now. I might be ready to go.
No, I gotta help my boy move in the morning, so
Fuck! All right, well, shit. Well, I tried, Proud Star. I tried to do another one. This motherfucker is the lady on this one. He's not ready to go, but it's fine. We will get
that's
another
misogynistic.
That's
relax, David Cage.
You're right. Sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. I meant to say I meant to say that he is the puss. Fuck! I don't know what to say. Shit! In 2019, I can't say anything. I don't know what to say in 2019. Anyway,
CraigMakk, you're a white guy. Just shut your mouth.
You're right. I should shut my mouth. On that note, Wacker, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. It's been a good time. Thank you mostly for agreeing with me, but in general, thank you for coming on.
No, good to have you on. For real.
It was a good time,
Good
dude.
opinions.
Everyone's going to hear you very soon. Pop up on our most recent episode of Live from the Man Cave. So that's another kind of cross promotion, which is going to be great. Jess, thank you, dude. It's been an awesome one. I had a good time.
Fun as always.
Even though we didn't agree on a lot of things, but we agreed on the most important things, which are alcohol is amazing and beer tastes delicious. And that's
not
really
so much
matters.
this one, unfortunately. This one's getting 2 from me. 2 stars on the Tavor app.
Yeah, so that would have been a great play out. Is alcohol is amazing, and then just like let it fade out.
Yeah, but he had to
Whatever
fucking ruin it by saying that. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay. Jess really not a pro with this whole podcast thing. He's only been doing it for fucking 10 years. But totally okay that he sat to bet on this. He's like, well, actually, I have a point I'd like to make on that, and it's really that I think it's something. Like, all right, well, transition fucking ruined.
It's terrible.
Anyway, I am CraigMakk. You are Serious Jest. He is Wacker. Nobody cares anymore because we've been talking too long about an episode that took 35 seconds. This is Live from the Man Cave. We are Ready Player 2. We've been killing it all night long. I'm going to go have a couple more beers. How about you guys? Any more drinks?
I'm going to go to something. Finish this last
one. You guys suck. All right.
No, let's play the Handsome Collection.
Hell yes, that is happening in 2 seconds. Follow us on Live from the Man Cave while we play the Handsome Collection because Jess is going to bed like a bitch. Peace.
Sorry,
Oh, gross. Okay, I changed my mind.